Maybe I'm being paranoid here, but my wife seems to like my brother. Yeah, I know, this is a wild accusation. If my mom knew I would even suspect my wife of this, she would whack me over the head. Lucy's loved by my whole family and by myself, but some things just make me feel as if this life that we have is not what she wants. I did not feel good, suspecting her of that as we had the perfect marriage for so long. I've never been a person who asks too many questions about matters that don't really concern me. I hate fights, and usually I just let most stuff go. That was probably what attracted the headstrong Lucy to me. She was of the youth leaders at church and the person who actually made me start going regularly. I met her one Easter when I was 23 years of age. I'd come home for the weekend and my mother asked me to go to church with her. It's been such a long time and life's gotten away with me and I was not really that interested. But in my mother's house, we go to church every Sunday, so she dragged me out of bed and along. I saw her in front when I first entered the church, and there was just something that drew me in. It was not that she was particularly beautiful, but just was so simple. She carried herself with dignity and delegated tasks of the younger ones. I don't know what attracted me to her, but when we talked later on at church, I just knew. I quickly realized that she was a non-nonsense woman who had a lot going on for her and was dedicated to helping others. We started off being friends and she invited me to several youth events. When I could join her, I did. As I grew to know her, I saw that she was also very intelligent and funny. I was happy when I was with her. I liked the way she would debate and lead. At the time, she was working as a bookkeeper. She helped me get my finances in order, something my mother had been trying but failing to achieve for years. Lucy hated anything that was disorganized and liked her list and her church. My mom caught on before I did that we appeared to be a match. I was a bachelor, a workaholic without a wife. Seemingly no plans to settle down or stand by building my life. But when Lucy came into my life, she introduced my idea of planning for the future. My family was happy to have her around, and I kid you not, she was the first girlfriend that my mother liked. Mainly because they could just tag team me and get to come to church and be responsible. She spent a lot of time at my house, even when I was away at work, and my mom would tell me how she was taking care of them. She would ask me every single time she called when I was going to commit myself to her. But the thing was that I wasn't sure, and sometimes I felt like I was wasting her time. I did not know what I wanted. My focus was on my career. That was what I lived and breathed. Even now, it's difficult to relax even though I'm supposed to be on my month-long leave. Lucy and I dated for a year, and everyone in town knew that we were a couple. My parents and my brother, Ass, kept on planting the idea of marriage in my head. What made me finally propose was when I heard through a friend that she might have been speaking to someone else. This someone else appeared to be a childhood friend that she said was her male best friend. I loved Lucy, but I was not sure if I wanted to be with her. I figured that since we made each other happy, since she treated my parents with respect, we could be good. So, I proposed, and we were married within a year. I know how I said I'm a workaholic. Well, that work is more about doing something, making something in this world. I am but a simple builder, painter, and carpenter, anything that's required of me. Over the years, I've worked for multiple companies, and I've worked alone as well. I saved money ever since I started working, and that was the money that we used for our wedding, to buy a simple 2-bedroom house just a few miles away from my family. Lucy was still working as a bookkeeper when we got married, but after a couple of months she quit and decided to be a stay-at-home wife. Before then, we were leading a very comfortable life, paying bills, but changed the dynamic of the relationship. This was when I started to see some qualities in her that I did not like. Before we got married, Lucy was energetic, kind, hardworking, but then she quit her job, saying that all her married friends didn't work. Most women in our church did not have a job, so it was best for her to stay at home and take care of the house and soon our children. My parents supported her in this, telling me at least get a better job. It had been a constant fight at home that I choose to do simple labor. But for me, it was always about the reward, standing in front of something that I've built with my own 2 hands. Some people measure their success in how much money they earn. Mine is measured by doing what I love, while my body's still willing. I'm able to pay for the bills and live a simple life. Before she came along, I was just living from paycheck to paycheck, until she tried to make me start saving money and dreaming bigger. As time passed, the happiness in our life slowly disappeared. There were a few things, and I'll not blame her alone. On the outside, we had a happy life, doing what we could with what we had. I worked for her happiness, to buy her things that we could not afford. And at first, she was happy about this. This was until she starts to call me a cheap, and complained about how everyone laughed at her, and she could not go out with her friends anymore, because she looked homeless. As I said, I did not like arguments. This ate me up for a long time, and I felt that maybe I was not enough for her. It did not help that she was helping each other with my parents to try to make me sell my soul for an office job that I hated, just so I could make a tiny bit more money. I tried to do that for a while, all of 2 months, thinking that finally she was going to be happy with me. But guys, that backfired terribly. She complained that I was not spending enough time with her and that my being busy was work all day was why she could not have a child. But at the end of the month, I gave her my entire paycheck that she used to buy takeaways and these big hats that filled their entire house. It was some sort of fashion trend among her and her church friends. Do not even get me started on the nagging. I could never do anything right in her eyes, even though I did everything I could for her. I was apparently not spending enough time with her, or I was smothering her too much. So 2 months after I got a better paying job, I came home to find her sleeping. The house was not clean, the dishes were still in the sink, and she had not bought any groceries. She didn't speak to me for days, and for those days I slept on the couch. I tried to tell my mom what was happening, and she said she would speak to her. There was a family meeting that happened where she said that I did not have time for her, and for us to start our own little family. I said nothing to defend myself. I've never been able to speak. After that, I went back to my job that I enjoyed, even though there was a pay cut. And seemingly, she was very happy that we had more time together. Our marriage seemed perfect and happy on the outside, filled with happy moments that were always clouded by her. My friends used to tell me that my wife was ungrateful, and she was controlling me, that she was abusive. But what did I say about that? I did not think that it was abuse at all. I thought this was a normal, healthy relationship. Growing up, my mom would nag me and my dad all day long, and spend his money, and he would tolerate her, spend the night at a friend's, and drink a lot. I'm not a drinker or a smoker, and I could never think to shout at her or make her scared. Did that make me a bad man? For all 2 years I've lived in this marriage with her, the only way to keep the peace being that I had just to give her what she wanted. But there was signs that something else was going on, especially on the holidays. I'll get to that though. I just need to know, am I right to be suspicious of her, or is that going too far? What's up guys, Mr. Reddito here. So this story is about to get insane. First of all, OP did not post for a while after that initial first part, but then I found some other posts by OP, and let me just say, the next update is called, "She Hates My Brother's Girlfriend." Here it is. Every year, my wife and I travel down for Thanksgiving, along with my younger brother Ethan. Ethan is the exact opposite of me. Very successful, less boring, and unmarried. He's a playboy. He did not bow down to the pressure that I had. He had been dating his girl for 2 years, which is the longest he's dated a woman. For some reason, my wife hates his girlfriend, telling me to tell my brother to break up with her. It's none of my business, so every time she brings the matter up, I just ignore her. My brother's girlfriend was a pretty cool person who I'm friends with. About a year after they started dating, she told me how she had concerns that her boyfriend was cheating on her. My brother was way too loyal to her, but she told me she did not like the way Lucy was close to my brother. So from the time on, I kept an eye on them. I could not just come up and accuse her of anything. It would not end well for me. At this point, she was controlling me and I had no idea. Everyone told me that I did not deserve to be treated like this, but I defended her against all those people. I covered for her, literally, with my parents when she did not show up for dinners. Then, when I got home and asked, she would tell me that I did not care. If anything, most people at church or who did not know us thought our marriage was strong. Most people who got married around the same time as us were wealthier and divorced. We sold the idea that our simple life was paradise. Well, I did cover for her. I could have done anything for her. As the years went on, people started to notice her close friendship with my brother. Even my mother's sister noticed and told me to be careful. There had been a time when he spilled something on his shirt, and she was the first one to hop up and go help him out. But the way the exchange came off and how comfortable she was unbuttoning his shirt killed me on the inside. It was small things like that. Her having more interest in hanging out with him. Me catching her speaking about him to friends, pretending like nothing's going on. I never asked. I just watched. Next update, the gift. There was a time Miranda, my brother's girlfriend, called me, telling me that she found something big. Something that could have proven to something was going on with him. This was what led to one of the biggest fights in my marriage. After that fight, I refused to attend my brother's birthday. My sister-in-law showed me the note and spa gift cards that she found from my wife. These were dated months prior and he had them hidden. She'd confronted him and he said he never used them. She said she knew it had to be my wife because she was the one who frequented that spa. So, I decided to follow the paper trail. I had every right to know if my wife was up to no good with my own brother. This did not make sense. A couple massage for your brother-in-law? Why did I not know about this? She did use my card to buy those gifts anyways, and she did send a very suspicious note with it. It went something like this. Something for you to ease those strong muscles. Trust me, I did not like the sound of my wife referring to my brother in that way. It sickened me to think of her getting something so inappropriate as a gift months before his birthday. She said it was a gift, but how am I to know it wasn't something more? Well, guys, this happened over 2 weeks ago, and maybe this is why I need some help to figure out what's going on, and if I'm not losing my mind. I confronted her on this, and she told me that I'm insecure. Yeah, she said I'm insecure. How can I feel I'm insecure if she does not look at me anymore, does not care for me anymore? I told her I did not appreciate what she did, and that it's her brother-in-law who was committed relationship. She says she's committed to me, then fine, but my brother-in-law's girlfriend's hurt by her action. Lucy does not see anything wrong in what she's doing. I talked to my brother about it, and he says that she bought it for us, but I was working on the day she gifted it to him. Those are two different stories, and they're just not making sense. Now, she's at his birthday party, knowing that I'm not happy about this. His girlfriend texted me, telling me that my Lent liquor is getting on her nerves, and I should come fetch her. What even is the point? Lucy will say that she's being friendly with him, and for context, they call her Lent liquor because of her detergent that she's been using ever since I met her. She's not changed, and brags about it over the years, how her clothing never has any lint. I know some people think it's an insult, but it's a more endearing term, and she doesn't mind it. She's coming back home tomorrow, and I don't know what to say. She swears that I'm blowing this out of proportion. Next update, guys, let this not be true. As I'm writing this right now, I'm very convinced that she has a crush on him, even after all she said to me. After the incident, she has made it her life's mission to be nice to me and act like a proper wife. She's open to me about where she is at all times. She does not go to my parents' house without me. This has started to make me question if I'm being paranoid like everyone says I am. I do not want it to turn into my parents' marriage. I want us to finally have our own child. Maybe that'll fix all the problems that we have. I don't know. I talked about how she went to my brother's birthday. I was not on speaking terms with any of them, right? Well, I've just seen pictures that no one showed me of that night. I was told that it was just a dinner at my parents' house, but what I'm seeing here is my wife, dressed in a short dress, wearing heavy makeup, and leaning against my brother. Now, I remember how she was sick the next morning, the telltale signs of a hangover. It's either something's happening here, or I'm mad, insane. Also, conveniently, I cannot get a hold of my brother's girlfriend. I cannot ask him what's going on. Maybe they finally broken up, but if it's her, because of her, I do not know what to do. Let this not be true. I do not know how far this goes, how deep and dark this tunnel is. I want to know what's going on in her mind, what deep dark secret she's hiding from me. She thinks that I'm jealous of my brother's success. Why would I not be? He's a much younger guy who makes triple what I make. He always has been better looking, and he has a much bigger house. He'd be able to give her the luxurious life she craves that I cannot. She's complained over and over again that I'm just not enough. I don't know what to do. I'll admit this to you right now, maybe because you don't know me. I feel that my heart's on the verge of breaking. I feel so small next to him. He doesn't know the power he has to take away my happiness. I know I complain a lot, but I love lint-licking Lucy. She's difficult, but she's my difficult lint licker. I cannot imagine him and her. No, I'm getting ahead of myself. What do you think I can do to fix this? I was so paranoid over nothing all along. It's been over some months since my last post, and a lot of stuff happened since then. What I know is that my wife did not cheat on me. There's a whole explanation as to why she was acting so out of place with me. Lucy has always been a moody person since we got married, but over the past few months, she's gotten even worse. This led me to suspect her of doing something, but now I feel bad, and I don't know how to fix it, knowing all she's done to make me happy. So after I got those pictures at the birthday party, I was convinced that something was going on. I did not want to start a fight with her because I already knew everything she would say to defend herself. Instead, I left the pictures on the bed and just went out. I was crushed at the thought of losing my family. I did not want it to be my brother. Over the years, my brother and I had a good relationship, but lately, things have been so awkward between us. I drank alcohol for the first time in over 10 years. I stopped drinking when I was a teenager, when I saw how my father acted when he was drunk. When my mother covered up for him when he was, quote, out. So for me, taking up drinking, I was just overwhelmed, not knowing whether to just let it go or confront her about it. When I got home, the pictures were gone and she acted like all was fine. So, I immediately went to bed, but I knew she knew what I did. We did not speak at all after that, and the house was so cold, and neither of us wanted to say anything about what was happening in our marriage. I was mad for everything that I've done to make her happy, yet nothing was ever good enough. She preferred to talk to my brother instead of me. When she wanted to talk to me, it was to ask for money for something else, but she would ask my brother about his life and his mental health, invite him to come with her to church. Things that she did not do for me anymore. I ended up not eating at home after the incident with the pitcher. I would get there and she would have either gone out or cooked a long time ago, knowing the food was cold. But we didn't even have a working microwave. I washed my own clothes, cooked my own food when I had to. She barely ever cleaned the house or was ever home. I didn't care to ask her whereabouts because she would always have a sharp answer prepared. Things thawed out a bit, but for over a month, we were glorified roommates. She continued to use me for money, and I let her, even though my friends told me to cut her off since she was treating me so badly, like a floor mat. This year, at Thanksgiving, we could cut the tension with an axe. It's bigger than a knife. I noticed when my brother walked in alone that he broke up with Miranda. He explained that she was offered a position in another state, and they decided that it would not work out. Well, we slept over at my parents' house that Thanksgiving, and oddly, so did my brother. Most nights he would rent a motel because he had to go to work so early and he didn't want to disturb anyone. The next morning, I woke up to find out that he was already gone, even though we promised to go for a round of tennis this afternoon. When I texted him, he said work emergency, and we didn't speak again. I'm still puzzled as to what happened that day. He's not been the same at all since then. He doesn't speak to any of our family members. I thought Lucy would care, but surprisingly, she's nonchalant about it and says that we should focus on our family. Oh, but I skimped over some info, guys. On the long drive back home, we ended up breaking the ice and discussing what's happening with our marriage. We decided that we either had to end it or fix it, but we could not carry on like this. Unlike most of the time, she admitted to her fault. She said she was just upset and acted out. But those pictures meant nothing. She's also apologized for acting so ungrateful for all that we have. And she thinks that the life we have is good for us. She doesn't need anything more. You do not know how long I've been waiting for her to say those words. I was so glad to hear that she was indeed appreciative of me. Well, that means so much to me. I also apologize for how I treated her. I did say some unkind words to her because I was jealous of my little brother. I feel so bad about that. She says she forgives me, but I really hope so. Well, on to even better news. After we got back together, we found out that we were expecting a baby. She's 2 months pregnant. My whole family's so happy about this, and so am I. I'm so over the moon that finally I'm going to be a father. I really think a child will help our marriage. I said that my family's happy about it, but I'm worried about my brother. I don't think he's over Miranda yet. The last time I spoke to him, he said he had something big that was weighing him down and affecting him. I told him that such a feeling could only bring guilt, hinting that he felt guilt about letting her go. I feel it's dumb that they had to break up over something so trivial. I've also not spoken to Miranda since she changed her number. I think it's best to respect her wishes. If she doesn't want to communicate with anyone from Ethan's family, so be it. But back to my brother. I don't know. He seems to be tired, overworked. The other day, I decided to show up at his workplace because I was in the area. When I got to reception, I found out that he's not been at work for days, even though he told me he's been working really hard. So, when I go to his place, it looked like a pigsty. He refused to get out of bed. When he saw me, he couldn't look me in the eyes and told me that he needed to be left alone. I told him that I came to talk to him about becoming a dad. I went there to officially ask him to be my child's godfather. I didn't tell Lucy, but I'm quite certain that she'll not mind if he's the godparent. It's my brother. She gets along well with him, and I've seen that it's just that. Guys, he starts crying when I told him that I wanted him to be the godparent, which was really strange because he never cries, and I mean never. He told me that he was more than honored and very glad that I wanted him to be the godfather of the child. That was when I realized why he was crying. He's around the same age that I was when I got married, but instead his girl left him. Now I feel insensitive for coming to him with such news. All in all, I'm excited to meet the baby in a couple months. I also hope that Ethan will find someone else very soon. I don't think he'll have trouble with it, as he's always had much luck with the ladies. Lucy's pregnancy is going really well, my little lint licker. But want to know something funny? She hates the smell of her favorite detergent now, so when I call her lint-licking Lucy, she loses it, but in a very cute way. Our marriage has improved so much since then, and we're working together as a team, and not against each other, so that our child can be born into a healthy, loving family. You know, I feel so blessed right now that we did not fall apart as a family. I have our faith to thank because we never stopped believing. We're going to take it a step at a time. I'll try to post an update when the baby's born, but right now I think our marriage is safe, and we'll continue to do so. Also, we're taking suggestions for baby names. We can't seem to agree on a name, and we have not found out the gender. I think it'll be a girl, but she thinks it's a boy. What do you think? What's up, guys? Mr. Reddito here. So this is part 2 of Lint Licking Lucy. If you haven't seen part 1, you can check out the description below or the pinned comment for the link. Right now, we're going to look at an update. It's an update about the pregnancy. Let's see what's going on with Lint Licking Lucy. 2 months ago, my wife gave birth to a bouncing baby boy, and we decided to name Timothy. It was a smooth pregnancy, though she had to go into labor a month early because she was under a lot of stress. She experienced some health issues in weeks before giving birth. This time, it's not because of our marriage, but things are happening in her family. Her father was recently diagnosed with kidney infection. Though he's now well, she had to go and stay with him for the final days of her pregnancy. We got the all clear from the doctor, and were certain that Timothy would not come for at least another month. But that boy was just rushing to come out and meet us. He looks just like me and my wife, though he has my father's nose. It's been difficult, being new parents, but with the common goal of looking after him, we do not have time to fight anymore. Now more than ever, I trust the woman who brought this miracle into the world. Guys, Mr. Reddito here, I have to interrupt. OMG. The next post, I found it. It came out 3 years after the last update, and I'm going to read the title. My brother has been spiraling down and ruined his life. What makes him do such a thing? Guys, here's the update 3 years later. It's now been over 3 years since my last post, and wow, I cannot believe time's gone by so fast. I suggest that you read my earlier post if you need some context, because right now I can't explain. It's a pressing matter. Some light within my brother seems to have gone out since his breakup with his girlfriend. I think that it's because of the breakup, but I don't know anymore what's going on with him. He quit his job, started staying with his friends. He's a bum. The reason was, quote, he's trying to find purpose in life. As an older brother, I want him to be happy, no matter what career he chooses, but he's incredibly becoming lazy over the last few years. He simply doesn't care. He's still somehow able to get a job in town, but he parties a lot and dates a different girl every week. I do not want this for him. I can see just how lonely he really is in those eyes, but I don't know what the right words to say are. Mother's tried to speak with him. She's even tried to get the priest to speak to him, but when that happens, he gets very angry, telling them that they should rather fix their own problems rather than focus on him. I cannot remember a time when I've not seen him drunk at family events. And when he's not very drunk, he's depressed and does just the bare minimum to survive. When I look at him, I see the shell of who he used to be. I'm wondering what the best option would be. Can I maybe get him therapy even if he does not want to? Or are there other ways to help him? I hate seeing him like this. He's my little brother. I've always taken care of him, so this eats me up. By the way, Timothy is a very healthy and active toddler and keeps us on our feet all the time. We still lead a comfortable and healthy life in our own home. What's up, guys? Mr. Reddito here. I hope you're enjoying this saga. I just want you to know, things are about to get wild. The next update, I found it, but guess what? It came out 11 years later. Yeah, 11 years from all the stuff we've heard so far. Now we're going to find out exactly what Lint Licker has been up to. Where's the time go? I completely forgot about this post until I was journaling the other day. I find it helps me release any thoughts or anguish that I feel. You know how I hate arguing with Lint Licker? But yeah, the boy's 14, now a teenager. We've not had any other children since then. It was never really a thing that we discussed over the years. Lucy now does some part-time work since I'm much older and can't work that many hours. My doctor advised me to do a routine change over 2 years ago, so I've written a sort of journal or diary of just random things that happened to me throughout the day. So, this one was something that I wanted to share with you. You know, I have friends that have kids, and most of their kids prefer social media and trending clothes. But then there's this young man of ours, who's an absolute nerd. He loves everything to do with history, science, philosophy. At dinner, he indulges us with some interesting historical facts. We've spent so much money on his models and academic journals because, well, he just wants to learn more and more and more. So yesterday on Christmas morning, he surprised us with a gift. It was a 23andMe kit to test our genetic ancestry. I've never been so interested, but I'm considering doing it. The problem is that as soon as she saw the kit, Lucy got angry and asked where he got the money for the test and why he would waste his allowance on that. I told her to chill out. The boy was just trying to learn more about himself. There's nothing wrong with that. I don't know why it's such a big deal to her. She wants to spend money on designer stuff, but gets mad when the child wants to learn about his history. What should I do? Risk her wrath or disappoint my son and not take the test? Well, update. The results are in. I just got confirmation that the test results are in. To be honest, waiting along with Tim while we bet on what the genealogy's like has been a good father-son bonding moment. These days, it was difficult for us to get along that well because now he sees himself as an adult. So we often butt heads. I'll be honest, I did something I should not have done. Lucy was very much against the testing and said we were wasting money. January was near and I was not working full-time anymore. I got where she was coming from, that for her it was just a stupid test. But the more I bond with my son, the more I realize how important it is to me. I don't care much about what I found out, but I do care about feeding his curiosity. My father has often said that curiosity is what makes a person a genius, and I do want my child to feed his brain as much as I can. So we secretly did the test, and I pretended that we got a refund, which I had to take out of my own pocket. I'm waiting for Timmy to come back so we may see the results. Oh, and some of you may have been asking about my brother. He's in and out of therapy. He's not doing too shabby, but never married nor had a steady girlfriend. I do worry for him, but what can I do? It's been 14 years, and I'm still waiting for the real him to come back. But he's gone, I guess. Final update of part 2. I think I'm going to need someone to explain this to me carefully because I don't understand. We got the test and there was DNA, relative feature, that could show us distant relatives and how much DNA we share. Well, according to the test, my son and I do not share as much DNA as I thought. I knew nothing about DNA before these tests, but when I saw the lower percentage of DNA that we share, I was puzzled. So I did the research and went on some sites looking to find something about the test being inaccurate, or family not showing that much DNA. Guys, right now my head is swarming with info on DNA, genes, mutations, etc. I saw that a father and son share approximately 50% of DNA, give or take, but what I'm seeing here is something else. I did contact customer care, of course, to check if I got the right results or if maybe our samples were contaminated. But I've just got off a call with a consultant. Everything checks out. Right now, my mind's going to so many dark places, and certain feelings I felt years ago, well, they're resurfacing. I thought I buried the mistrust that I had with Lucy. Yes, we're not as in love as we used to be a long time ago, but we're good parents to our boy. When she made her vows, she vowed to be loyal to me at all times. I've loved that boy and taken care of him for 14 years. So why the hell is science telling me that we're not related? Someone, please tell me that there's somewhere I went wrong, that there's an explanation for this. It cannot be. Has my wife been cheating on me? Okay, so things are starting to spiral out of control pretty quickly. It was crazy that this jumped to an 11-year update, and the fact that this 21andMe test brought back these crazy results. So let me know in the comment section down below. Do you suggest foul play here, or is there just a possibility that not all DNA could have been shared from OP. Drop your thoughts down below, guys. I want to thank you for joining me on part 2. Part 3 will be up shortly. I hope you guys are having an amazing day. Smash that subscribe button, run up the numbers on Instagram, check out the links below. Part 3 is coming at you shortly. Here's the long-awaited part 3 of Lint-Licking Lucy. Let me just tell you right now, if you thought part 1 and 2 was absurd, you've seen nothing yet. I do not trust my wife anymore. After the 23andMe test results came back, I was confused. I did not want it to be true that this boy was not my son. I could not believe that for 14 years, I've cared for a child that's not mine. Over the years, there's been signs where she has shown disinterest in me. Maybe I was too blind and wishful not to see the truth in front of me. After I got the 23andMe results, I paid attention to her. I saw how there were times she told me she would be with a friend, but when I asked the friends, they would say that they've not seen her. Then I did something I wish I did not have to do. I decided to make use of the car tracking system. She's the one who usually has the car, running errands, picking up her son at school, while I make use of work transport. She's made frequent visits to areas she has no business going to. I also looked through her phone, and there I saw that there were some suspicious messages between her and different men. When I would check the messages later on, I saw that they've already been deleted. What made me even more suspicious was when I saw some pictures she had herself on her phone. Very provocative pictures that she's never sent to me. You would think that I wouldn't be heartbroken, but I think deep down I knew that she was unfaithful. It was my own fault for staying with her when she's not the woman that I fell in love with. I've not loved anything about her for years. So when I saw all she was doing, how she lied about her whereabouts, and the signs that she was talking to other people, I was not as hurt as I thought I would be. I can truly say that she's trampled on my heart for so long that now I don't feel any pain. What I wanted to know about was my son. Now that I've seen with my own eyes her deceitfulness, that she was unfaithful, I knew there was a chance he wasn't mine. For once I know that he was born a month early. Not only that, but our marriage was a bit rocky when she announced her pregnancy. Back then, I was so blinded by happiness to even question her. When I see what I wrote back then, I feel sick. I should have investigated those signs a long time ago. Maybe today it would be a different story, so I got a sample from Tim, which was easy enough. Then I sent those DNA testing websites. In the meantime, I decided to test my suspicion on Ethan. My mind told me no way. He would never. I knew that she had a crush on him, but he could not do that as a brother. I went to see my brother. He was doing much better than the last time I saw him. But this time, I was paying attention to all that he was saying and doing. When he spoke, he sounded hopeless, speaking about how he deserved all that he has going through because of his life choices. So then I threw a bone. Heck, why not? I told him how it's funny. I got a DNA test 23andMe with my son. We didn't have a single bit of matching DNA. I wanted to pick his brain and watch his reaction about it since he's the smart one. He blinked, started sweating, then excused himself to the bathroom. When he came back, I did not miss the fact that his face was still wet. It was either he's been crying or he's just washed his face with water. He told me something about how sometimes DNA cannot match that well. Maybe my wife's DNA is more dominant, which was an utter load of nonsense. Then I asked him if he thought that Lucy was a good woman for me and that she would never cheat. The way he said, "Oh, of course not," in a high-pitched voice, and the way he scrambled to look for a new topic was priceless. I don't know. Call me sadistic if you want, but there was a second here, I hope for his sake, that it was not what I thought it for, when he deserved to suffer all these years. I'll be getting the DNA test results in a couple days, and I'll tell you what happens next. Update. Guys, the results are here. I hope you're enjoying this saga. Mr. Reddito here. Let's see what's going on with Timothy. Well, yeah. I'm not Timothy's father. I'm not his dad. His mom cheated on me with someone else. I raised a son that's not mine. I was hoping I would be wrong. I was praying I was wrong. I don't know what to do. How do I even break the news to him? Oh, but I'm such a fool. She really did play me good, didn't she? My friends told me to leave her a long time ago, but I didn't. I should have known something was up all along. But I was just trying to be that nice guy. I thought that this simple life was for us, but it appears I was holding her back. She's taken my happiness and left me with nothing. How do I even carry on after this? All these years of joy, memories, how do I forget? Tonight, she was supposed to be home from a job at 6 p.m. I called the place she's working at. She's not been there in weeks. I asked some of her friends where she is and how funny it is that she's at 3 different places at once. I'm sitting here. Timothy's asleep, and I can't even look at him. When he came home from school. What a life. Next update, a few weeks later. Hey, sorry it's been a long time since an update. A lot of stuff's happened since then, and it's still happening. First of all, I was in jail. For 3 days. Lint-licking Lucy has a restraining order against me now. It's funny that she feels I'm a danger to her after what she's done. This is going to be a difficult story to tell. I don't even know if I want to post it. If you're listening to this, then I guess I found the courage to post it. She came home at 2 in the morning, reeking of alcohol, wearing clothes that no one's mother should be wearing. She was shocked to see me sitting there in the dark, and even more to see that she was busted. I asked her where she was. She responded that I was so controlling and life was so hard for her. She just went to spend time with her friends. I asked her which friends it was and where they went. She says that they had a prayer session at Nikki's house. So I asked her, how could she be at Nikki's, Janice's, and Lauren's house at the same time? She said that she passed by there. My hands moved out of its own accord and I threw something at the wall. It was one of her prized ornaments and it shattered. I told her to take a seat, to which she tried to tell me she was tired and wanted to go to bed. We could talk tomorrow. I got up, opened the drawer, and threw the DNA results in her face and asked her, could this wait till tomorrow too? She starts crying and apologizing. I felt so pathetic that she did not even own up to her own mistakes. She kept this secret from me and felt no shame all these years, but now she's sorry. Yeah. She confessed to me what happened. Remember that Thanksgiving when my brother broke up with his girlfriend? You know, the night we stayed after? She said that when I was sleeping, she felt hot. Needed some water. Went to the kitchen where she found my brother sitting in the dark. They talked, and somehow that led to them sleeping with each other. It was only once, apparently, but when she told him she was pregnant months later, both of them were consumed by guilt. She lied to him that it was mine, but he still felt guilty about what he did, and that messed him up all these years, and that's why he's been using substances. She said that she wanted to tell me, but she kept on postponing, especially when she wanted to tell me, but she saw how happy I was with our son. She said she did not mean to hurt me, but by then I was done listening. I'll not go into too much detail about this because it just triggers me. It's still so raw. I do not know what happened to me. Everything was just a blur of shouting and breaking things. I was only back in my body when hours later I was in a jail cell. But from what I've been told and managed to put together, this is what happened. I became very violent. I was shouting at her, calling her names and breaking furniture. I wanted to hurt her, but she ran away to call the neighbors who heard the commotion and called the police. Even the cops had a hard time restraining me. All I remember is seeing red and the pain. It was like my soul was breaking, if such a thing is even possible. I'll be honest with you, this will horrify you and make a villain in your eyes. But if the police did not arrive on time, then something irreversible would have happened in that house. Luckily, the police got there on time and removed me from the situation. My parents are the one who bailed me out after Timothy ran away from her. He was missing for hours, and he hiked all the way to their house, They visit me with him, but I can't even look at him. When I see my brother. And Lucy making a mockery of me. I get so angry when I see that child. He's her child. He has her rotten genes, and I cannot be in the same room as him. He'll not leave me alone and keeps calling me, and wants to talk to me, but I don't want to talk to anyone. He's staying with my parents who disowned my brother and that lint liquor. You know, that name's much more fitting now. It matches the alternate definition. She's a harlot without morals, a loose woman with no shame. Ever since this happened, people have been telling me things have seen her do. She's never been faithful from the beginning of our marriage, but I was so stupid. Right now, I want to divorce her, and she'll not even give a cent of what I have. I want to sue her for even the shoes on her feet. Trust me, she'll rule the day she thought I was a weak person that she could lie to. And Ethan, I'll have to let him know what I think of him. He knows that if I even set eyes on him, I'll not be responsible for my actions. Update. Multiple things have happened since the last post. My parents disowned my brother. We had a family meeting where Lucy was present. She tried to pin it all on him, and like the pitiful person that he is, he didn't even fight back. He cried, went on his knees and begged me for forgiveness, but my heart could not. His tears meant jack squat to me. I was trying my hardest not to grab him right then and there and finish him, like Mortal Kombat. As for Lucy, my parents promised that once we were done with her, there'd be no reputation for her to salvage. My mom told her that she should be careful, for such a sin does not go unpunished in God's eyes. Her day's coming. Don't you worry about that. What's up, guys? Mr. Reddito here. Oh my goodness, if this hasn't been one of the craziest sagas ever covered on the channel, I don't know what was. First of all, I just need to tell you, there's 2 more updates, and this entire saga comes to an end, but I want you to prepare yourself, because these next 2 updates are an absolute roller coaster. I hope you're all having an amazing day. Please throw some support for the channel, as it was very hard to put all these updates together and present it this way. The best way to support me right now is by clicking the description button right under this video, clicking on the Instagram link, and following my new Instagram channel. I'm having 60-second videos of stories animated, behind the scenes, green screen pictures, you name it. So go ahead and follow that Instagram channel, and let's see what the heck has been going on with lint liquor. After my parents disowned my brother, his mental health got even worse. Well, mine did as well. I refused to talk to him and could not consider forgiving him. As for Timothy, he stayed with my parents. He wanted nothing to do with his mom. I spent a lot of time going to and from my parents' house, and I just had to see him. The more I saw how he was hurt and how he hated his mother, I could not continue hating him. My mother told me that he was hurting because I did not want anything to do with him. He's also resented both his parents, his mother especially. Gradually, Tim and I start to speak again. I saw how wrong I was to blame him for something he didn't even know, and even with how much I hated my brother, I encouraged Timmy when he expressed a desire to check up on his real father. One evening, I got a call from Tim. He was crying. Ethan was in the hospital. He overdosed. It appeared to be an attempt at his own life. If Tim did not get there in time, then he would have been gone, off this earth forever. I was angry, and I still am, but I did not want him to die. I decided enough was enough. He needed to get proper help now. My parents and I got the money together and paid for him to go to rehab. He's still there now, and the divorce was really messy. I don't want to lie. As usual, she tried to make it seem like she was the victim that was wronged. My parents, on the other hand, were even more demanding to make her suffer than I was. The one messy thing was the custody battle. Tim did not want to stay with her, but she tried to get him to stay with her, all out of spite for the family. She also tried to get the house and alimony from me. But after proving how I took care of her all these years and how she could not work, but she chose not to, that was thrown out. Not to mention the trauma that she put me through. I could see it looked of disgust on the judge's face, though the judge tried to conceal it. When I told her about the cheating with my brother, lint-licking Lucy then tried to make it seem like I was a danger to her because of what happened that night. I take full responsibility for my actions, and I'm not making excuses, but she's driven me crazy. After her, I do not think I can ever date or remarry again. She felt no remorse when she was pregnant for all those months. Now that I think of it, at least my brother felt remorse. It ate him up for years, but she shut him up. And to think that Miranda knew what was up and tried to warn me. I was blinded. So, my brother got full custody of the boy, but because of where he is now and his history, the court felt it was right for me to be his legal guardian as of now. It's up to me if she ever sees him or has any part in his life. She also has to pay monthly child support and a settlement fee to me. Not only that, but everyone knows what she did. She was thrown out of the church publicly. I don't know if she's still working, but she has to pay that money to us now regardless. Now, I remember what my mom said about her not getting away with this. Now we focus on healing. Well, guys, it's been a long one. 3 videos deep, and here we are. The final update of lint-licking Lucy and Ethan. Let's see what's been going up with these two. I hope that this is the final update and I can finally move on from this. Tim, well, he's feeling much better now. He gets to visit Ethan at rehab, which is helping Ethan recover. I don't want to kill Ethan on sight anymore, at least. But when he gets out, we need to talk. I know he regrets it, and that makes it so much easier for me to forgive him. But I want to tell you even bigger news. Lint-licking Lucy. She's gone. Left town, like a ghost. She left with a younger man. So after the divorce and being kicked out of the church, she dropped the innocent act. Without even looking for info, I knew all about what she was doing and the men she was involved in. And let me just tell you, from several towns away, I sold my house and bought a more modern apartment close to my parents. She doesn't live far from here, so we know everything she's been up to. The latest is she's now on Tinder. One of my friends showed me her profile. She was even an upgraded member. It was laughable, to be honest. But hey, she's a free woman and can do what she wants, right? So I said she left town, right? Yeah, she met a 20-year-old man on Tinder, not even old enough to drink alcohol, and skipped town with her. I've not spoken to her since. As long as the monthly child support payments come through, she can do whatever the hell she wants. She's now the laughingstock of town. Even her family's embarrassed to be related to her. Well, guys, let's end this on a bright note, shall we? On the bright side, due to my experience in construction, carpentry, and other skills, I've been offered a lecturing spot at a training academy where I'll be teaching more skills for short courses. I'm so excited about this because it means more money and less work that I have to do. Tim and I are also still close. He's been going to therapy to deal with this life of a mess. As for me, sharing all this has been my therapy. I thank everyone for your advice, your many words over the long years. It's like having my own support system. Thank you for listening to this saga of lint-licking Lucy. I'm 35 and male, and I'm going through a tough time, guys. Hence deciding to come here and open up my heart to you. I'm going through a divorce with my wife, Laura. We've been married for 6 years. 6 long years. After more than half a decade of being together, I got to know that she was cheating on me with all my friends. Yeah, gosh, I wanted to punch myself to believe that she was a social person and, well, just got good with my friends, huh? Little did I know that she was gluing on something else. I'm in a deep rage and sorrow as I write this, so please excuse me if I just rant over my miserable life. Laura and I have been married for 6 years, and we were a happy couple. At least that's what I thought. I loved her dearly with all my heart and soul. After all, she was the most wonderful woman I've ever met. Laura and I met at guitar class. She was one of those girls who got the paramount male attention because of her beauty. Needless to say, I too was also one of her admirers, but an introvert, hence I never had the guts to ask her out. If it was not for Laura, who by the way made the first move in approaching me, I would have a different fate today. I was good at playing the guitar, and she was a newbie at the music house. I still remember that day vividly when Laura first approached me. I was busy practicing my new notes when somebody taps me from behind saying, "Hey John, it's Laura." She needed some help with her music lessons, hence she approached me for help. Well, that was the beginning of a 2-year relationship and 6 years of marriage. We both were working individuals during our courtship period, but after marriage, Laura decided to quit her job and wanted to pursue a music career. I work for a corporate office, so I did not see any financial challenges in Laura's decision. My salary was well off to manage a lifestyle for two. Hardly did I realize that I was her ATM. Laura had expensive clothing and taste of perfume and whatnot. I obliged all her demands as a good husband. As I mentioned earlier, Laura is a social and extroverted person. She makes friends very quickly, whereas it's difficult for me to make friends easily. To be honest, I adore her for her friendliness, for being able to bond so well with all my friends while I was still struggling to be able to get comfortable with hers. I would have never found out the truth or even doubted her if I did not see those filthy conversations of her with my friends. A month ago, my laptop crashed unexpectedly while I was in the middle of something important, hence I reached out to Laura's laptop just to finish my task. Laura was not home at the time and her laptop was locked, so I called her to get the password, but she did not respond. She went shopping with her friends, well, that's what she told me. So I tried different combinations of alphabets and numbers to unlock her laptop. After trying several combinations using our anniversary date, my and her name together, I was finally able to unlock the laptop using her birth date. Of course, she loves herself that much. When I logged into the laptop, the browsers were open, but I did not bother to check any of the minimize windows. I just focused on my task. While I was busy doing my work, I could see several notifications popping up in one of the tabs. It was WhatsApp. She was logged into her WhatsApp through her laptop and left it open. After completing my work, when I was about to shut down the laptop, something inside me told me to click on it. Go ahead, click on that WhatsApp tab, which was in the minimize state until now. For a moment, I felt creepy for looking at my wife's WhatsApp conversation while I was still deciding on taking a peek at her messages. I saw notifications flooding in as if she was having a conversation with someone. Well, this got me curious, because she was not answering my phone, and on the other hand, she was active on WhatsApp and chatting with someone, so I clicked on the WhatsApp tab hesitantly. At that moment, I experienced a gut-wrenching revelation as I stumbled upon the messages, unraveling my world. I was right. As I clicked on the WhatsApp screen, I saw that she was online and was chatting with somebody. With the initial conversations, it seemed that she had just left the place of the person she was talking to, and they're already missing each other, huh? So, I clicked on the profile picture, and I was shocked to my core. It was my friend Tony. I just shook my head in disbelief. What? Laura's cheating on me with Tony? I scrolled further to see the intensity and darkness of the dual life that Laura was leading. I found myself drowning in my wife's flirtatious exchanges with her affair partner, leaving me grappling with a profound sense of betrayal and shattered trust. I was partially correct. Laura was cheating on me, but not only with Tony. She has flings and one-night stands with many of my friends, and I was shivering with anger and disbelief. How could I not know? I went into autopilot mode and quickly printed out all the chat convos that she had with her lovers. I didn't know how to confront her regarding this. In my last 6 years of marriage, I barely had a tiff with her. She was just so adorable that I never said no to anything. She was right in calling me a puppet in one of the conversations with an affair partner. My world revolved around her, which crumbled into pieces after seeing those explicit chats and compromising pictures. So, I tracked her WhatsApp messages and got to know that after leaving her lover's house, she pinged her girlfriend to go shopping. I wanted to run away and bury myself and never see her face again, but a part of me wanted to know the truth. I wanted to know why the hell she cheated on me despite everything I've done for her. I was raging with anger. My head was heavy and I could feel the grief traveling to my guts. As soon as she reached home, I threw the printouts of the conversation at her face. I could not find any better way of confronting her. Well, she was frozen for a moment, seeing herself getting exposed. If it was some other person, she would have remorse for her mistakes and would have pleaded for mercy and forgiveness, but this is Laura. She's an entitled woman who thinks that she owns the world. Instead of being guilty of her mistakes, she just turned into her narcissistic self and accused me of spying. Wow, her words pierced my heart like a bullet that I wanted to shove back into her head. She said, "How dare you log into my laptop and check my messages? How dare you intrude into my privacy?" What the hell? How dare I? I lost my mind. I yelled at her for the first time and asked her sternly to reason out her infidelity. She kept saying that it's just for fun. For fun? Do you sleep with a half dozen of men that I know for fun? I told her up front that I can't live with her and I'm divorcing her now. That's when she turned pale when I spelled out the word divorce. Until then, she was fighting back. She was confident in herself that she could get away with her crime without being punished. Well, guess what? She got a reality check when I asked her to pack her stuff and get the heck out. She would have never imagined that I would ask her to do so. She knew that I was too much in love with her to let her go. So, I asked her to leave the house immediately. She tried to hug me and pacify me, but I shrugged her off. And that's when she grabbed my knees and begged for forgiveness, saying it's a one-time mistake. I would have forgiven her if it was a one-time mistake, but it wasn't. It was a malicious act, deliberately and meticulously planned, more than a dozen times, more than a baker's dozen, to cheat and betray me. I felt humiliated. She slept with my friends while mocking my loving and subdued nature. She even told my friends that I was not wild and adventurous enough, hence she was seeking those from them. I felt so disgusted. I still can't get over those conversations where she made fun of my love and care. The visuals of those conversations are still haunting, and I can't get over it. I left the house and went to my best friend Mark. Gladly he was not involved with Laura, or else I would have been shattered to the core with no one to share my grief. So, I told him everything, crying and howling like a fifth grader. After hearing me out completely, Mark told me that maybe all this started 2 years back when we met at a school reunion. He told me that our school friends were mesmerized by Laura's beauty and charisma. He even heard Tony, the same guy that Laura was with that day, saying that he would consider himself to be blessed if he gets to spend just one private moment with Laura. I pounced on Mark for not informing me about all this before. Mark said that he did not take these remarks to be serious and brushed off all of this of typical boy talk. It's common for men to say such thing for their friend's hot wife, but they didn't mean it. While I was discussing all these with Mark, my phone was bombarded with messages and calls from Laura, asking for forgiveness. In a fit of rage, I called her and asked, "When did all this start?" She sobbed from the other end, and I kept repeating myself. When the hell did this start? Did this happen at my school reunion? Oh, Mark. Mark was right. All of it did start at the reunion. At the event, we all exchanged each other's contact, and that's when Laura got in touch with my school friends. She confessed that it started with a friendly text on social media, which progressed into flirty conversations. Well, one thing led to another, and she cheated. Physically. She started as a one-time experience, but she loved the thrill and continued to betray me. She had a physical relationship with at least 6 of my friends and many other men. I spent the next 1 week at my friend's house, getting my STD test done and hiring a lawyer. I sent the divorce papers to her through my lawyer and the official notice to vacate my home. I don't want to see her face ever again. It's been a month since that fateful day, and I'm still not able to get to my terms with the fact that she was cheating on me for the last 2 years. I was such a fool to never doubt her intentions. I just want this pain to get over, so that I can move on with my life. I feel clueless and directionless. I have to cut off from everyone in the last month, immersing myself in video games. I've called in sick at my work for most of the last month and have been working from home for the remaining ones. I don't want to meet anyone. I'm writing this just to disburden my heart with the hope that it makes me feel better. Update number 1. Hey everyone, thank you for the support and advice during my tough time. It's been 6 months since my last update. My divorce is going to be settled next week, and I'm feeling relieved to be finally released from the claws of my ex-wife. After I left the house and went to Mark's place for a week, Laura continued to live in our home. She refused the divorce, and she was insisting that I take all these lightly, and that those affairs did not mean anything to her. Well, you know what? It's meant a lot to me. She did not leave the house until my lawyer sent her an official notice to vacate. Until then, she was hopeful that I would go back to her once my anger subsides and my love for her takes over. After receiving the notice, she blasted my phone with messages and voicemails to forgive her and start fresh. After I turned a blind eye to all her pleadings, she turned defensive. She blamed me for being cold to her and not being an adventurous person. If someone around the world gets an award for narcissism, then I'm not sure. Guys, it has to be Laura. She's the evilest woman I've ever come across. God knows what I was smoking when I fell in love with her. I blocked her from everywhere because she's not letting me move on with my life. I don't know how many weeks I've spent on the sofa crying and cursing my fate. Despite the court hearings, Laura was not ready to divorce me. Of course, she did not want to lose her ATM. She pleaded on getting back together, but I was adamant about divorcing her. She did not only cheat me, she humiliated me. She mocked my love and my care, and I can't forgive her for that. She claimed to share in my house because we were together for 6 years. If that was not all, she demanded a huge alimony for the divorce, claiming that it was an open marriage between us. She framed me to be the one who had encouraged her to open the marriage, and later, when my insecurities took over, I wanted to divorce her. What BS? I'm never in favor of open marriages. She also alleged me of having an affair with my colleagues. Of course, she could not prove her baseless claims, and her demands were rejected by the court. If there's anyone who needs to be compensated, it's me. In fact, my lawyers even asked me if I wanted to claim any penalty amount, but I declined. I know that she's jobless, and that her parents would have to bear that money. I don't want to penalize them for their daughter's mistakes. So, after 6 months of mental trauma and several breakdowns, I'm glad that it's all going to end in a few days. I got a call from my lawyer minutes ago that the court's going to grant us the divorce next week, and I could feel a sense of relief in my heart. I'm looking forward to moving on with my life and concentrating on my work. I'm planning to start my guitar classes again. I don't even remember the last time I played my guitar. Maybe it was many years ago. I got so busy with my work to maintain and support Laura's lifestyle that I forgot to live for myself. Thank you for supporting me. I'll keep you guys updated. Update number 2. Hey guys. It's been 6 months since the last update. As mentioned in my last post, I was finally able to get rid of my narcissistic wife. Today is exactly 1 year of my first post where I was crying and howling in front of you guys. Whining over my unfaithful wife. This is going to be a shorter update. While the pain and scars of trauma are still alive, I'm in a much better place now. Soon after my divorce, I rejoined my guitar classes. I took some certification courses as well, which helped me in getting a promotion in the financial year. Even after the divorce, Laura continued to contact, though unknown number of landlines somehow, sometimes pleading with me to get back with her, sometimes threatening me with dire consequences for ditching her, and sometimes cursing me for her miserable life. Meanwhile, I saw my friend's Instagram stories with Laura, where she was partying and dancing, all with them, so I blocked all my friends whom Laura cheated on me with. God knows what she's up to. I did not date anyone. I feel that I'm not ready to open my heart again to someone. A few weeks ago, my best friend Mark had set me up on a date with his colleague Molly. After my divorce, this was the third time he had tried to set me up with someone. His first 2 attempts were futile, as I didn't show. In his third attempt, Mark did not take a risk. He picked me up from my office and dropped me at the cafe where I was supposed to meet Molly, hence there was no way I could escape. Although nothing panned up from that meeting, I had a good conversation after a long time. Molly was a nice girl, but not someone who I'd want to see in the light of a romantic partner. This meeting instilled a spark in me, though, to give another chance to myself. I'm thinking of installing some dating apps to further explore my chances. What do you guys think? Update number 3. Hello, friends. Thank you for the suggestions on the dating apps. I did try a few of them and connected with some amazing women, but nothing panned out with anyone, beyond a couple coffee dates. Besides that, I have an interesting update for you, so hang on with a coffee. A year ago, when the news of our divorce reached my parents-in-law, they both called me and apologized for the nasty behavior of their daughter. My father-in-law yelled at my mother-in-law for pampering Laura to the extent that she feels entitled to do anything she wants. Laura's younger sister, Sarah, also apologized to me for Laura's narcissism. Over the last 1 year, Sarah's been in regular touch with me, supporting me and motivating me to move on with my life. Actually, Sarah is also one of the victims of Laura's cruelty. I wasn't aware of this until now. Sarah's 2 years younger than Laura, but way more mature and understanding. She told me the backstory behind Laura's entitled behavior. Laura is a blessed child because she was born after a few miscarriages. Hence, she was pampered to the core by her parents. In fact, Laura used to mock Sarah by saying that their parents brought her into this world because Laura wanted a baby to play with. Laura treated Sarah no less than a toy, and she was never close to her elder sister. I find a sense of peace and compassion while speaking to Sarah. She understands my pain and my silence. Besides, Sarah is also the one who encouraged me to go out and give myself a second chance. I feel that her intention is genuine and she wants good for me. Of late, I find myself enjoying her company. During my 6 years of marriage with Laura, I've met Sarah 4 to 5 times during family events or so. It was no more than a formal exchange of greetings. Even in the last year of conversations, we've only connected over chat messages. I met her last week for lunch. This was my first meeting with her after my divorce, and I found her to be an extremely humble and compassionate person. I found myself to be happy with her. I don't know where this is leading, but I can't get over with the tickly feelings I'm getting after meeting her. I discussed this with Mark, and he suggested that I stay away from her as this could lead to an ugly path of crossing the lane with Laura. Again. Following Mark's advice, I did not speak to Sarah since yesterday, but I'm not feeling that great about it. I'm craving to talk to her. I don't know when Sarah became an important part of my life, and now when I'm not speaking to her, I just feel empty. Do you guys have any suggestions for me? What should I do? Should I avoid Sarah? as suggested by my friend Mark, or shall I go with the flow and see where it leads? Update number 4. Hey everyone, I know, it's been a long time. A year. There's a lot that happened in the last year. Let me pick up from where I left off in the last post. After ghosting Sarah for 2 days, I felt hollow inside. I realized that I was growing feelings for her, so I decided to confront her to avoid any confusion. I asked her for a quick catch-up over lunch the next day. I assumed that she would be angry with me for ghosting her for 2 days. I was used to this kind of tantrum because of Laura, but to my surprise, Sarah was not at all angry with me. Au contraire, she was concerned about my safety when I did not respond. I was swayed away by her humanity. I told her about my feelings up front. I don't know how I mustered the courage to pour out my heart. Maybe it's because I was very comfortable in front of Sarah. After listening to me calmly, Sarah told me that she felt likewise. She also explained to me that maybe this was just a phase. Maybe I was taking her as a support system and she was just being a nice friend to support me. I instantly fell for her honesty and maturity. I decided to let this feeling take a back seat and explore the dating app again, just to meet other women. I must tell you that the peace and solace I found in Sarah, I could not find with anyone. She too started going back with her colleagues to get me over me, but we both kind of got stuck with each other's feelings. After a month of this experiment, we both decided to stop seeing each other and instead put an effort to know each other better. Yeah, we finally started talking like potential partners. I've never been so happy and content, neither when I was with Laura. After talking to each other for 2 years and officially dating for a year, we finally decided to marry. However, our path to marriage is not an easy one. We had to address the elephant in the room, which is that of Laura. And, well, we both knew the consequences of our decisions, and we knew that Laura would turn the world upside down when she gets this news. I got to know from other mutual friends that Laura has moved on with her life and that she's dating other people. Sarah never discussed Laura except for the first few instances where she told me about her horrible childhood with Laura. Sarah informed her parents about us, and both of them were shocked to know this. Needless to say, they both cautioned Sarah about Laura's rage. Things turned out to be exactly the same as we anticipated. Laura broke open 7 hells. She berated Sarah for cheating on her. With her, quote, brother-in-law. Seriously? Brother-in-law? She called me from a landline and hurled abuses at me for trying to break into her house and manipulate Sarah and her family against her. She threatened to call the cops on me and get me arrested on the charges of manipulating her sister. She swore to ruin our life if we proceeded to marry each other. Well, I was initially terrified of her words, but when she cursed Sarah for ruining her life, I lost my mind. How can someone be so narcissistic? She was the one who was responsible for ruining her and mine's life. It was Sarah who uplifted me during the time of misery, and now when things are getting better for us, she's playing the victim? Laura's rage made an adamant me to stick to my decision of marrying Sarah. We both want to marry and get done with this, and Laura's been using her parents as the last resort to cancel the wedding. She's asking them to disown Sarah for marrying me. She's accusing me of brainwashing Sarah against her. She's told her parents that I don't really love Sarah. I'm just marrying her to get back at her. She thinks that I still love her and I can't love anyone else. Well, she's right to an extent. 2 years ago, I would have never imagined loving anyone except Laura. I love and trusted her with my life. Now, things are different, and I'm in love with Sarah. My second love is more mature and is growing on the pillars of mutual respect, unlike the first one. Laura had made our life hell in the last month after she got to know about our relationship. She's trying all means to stop our wedding. She's emotionally blackmailing her parents to threaten Sarah to call off the wedding, and her parents know me well, hence they did not tell me anything. However, they've been softly asking Sarah to reconsider her decision. I think their parents are also at fault for Laura's entitled attitude. They should have supported Sarah and put Laura in her place. Nevertheless, the wedding is scheduled for this coming Sunday, and I'm pretty sure that Laura's going to create a ruckus at the venue. She threatened to vandalize the place by lighting it on fire, yeah, and whatnot. I've arranged for an extra security for Sarah. I've given the pictures of Laura and have instructed security agents to be cautious of her. My parents have called up Sarah's parents and have asked them to keep Laura in check, but that girl is beyond anyone's control. I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm looking forward to starting the new chapter of my life with Sarah. Final update. Hey guys, a quick update. It's been a week from our marriage. The wedding was no less than a climax of a daily soap opera. As expected, Laura Gate crashed at the wedding venue. She snuck into Sarah's room with a pair of scissors just to destroy her wedding dress. But she was caught just at the right moment by a few of Sarah's friends and was chased out of the room. You should never run with scissors. Before others could spot her, she vandalized the wedding venue by pulling down the flower decorations and throwing water at the food items. She was messing with the security agents and was beyond anyone's control. So, my father called the cops to stop her from causing any further destruction. Her parents pleaded with the police to let her go, so they took her home and did not attend the wedding. Sarah was disheartened at her parents' absence to the wedding, but my father walked her down the aisle instead. It's been a week of togetherness with Sarah, and I feel that we're just meant for each other because of everything we've gone through. Please, wish me luck in the future. But it's over. I've had a very simple life with a fulfilled career and love, but recently something's happened which does not let me sleep, and I think I'll lose it all by the end of the road. One of my friends suggested this so-called group to talk to someone, and I'm here posting. I'll try to cover my story from the beginning so that you can all help me figure out some solution. I was a single child to my parents and was lucky as I grew up witnessing their pure love for each other. My father worked hard as an office clerk and my mother did some work here and there, but nothing stable. But we were okay financially. We had our own home, which my mother got us as our inheritance, and that was pretty much it. I never lived lavishly, but the love I got from the top colleges in the country, and I vividly remember the day my scholarship letter arrived. They never made me feel poor either. I studied in a public school and was pretty brilliant, also. So after my schooling, I got a scholarship from my Master of Business, as my parents were so proud of me, and I was off to college when I was 18 years of age. So, I was living far away from them every day, and to be honest with you, I missed them. College was quite difficult for me emotionally, because there I realized what money can do. People had so much of it. There are certain unspoken rules in the world which we live in, which I never knew until college happened. You get into the best clubs, only if you're popular. You get popular only if you have a hot girlfriend or money, and you get a girlfriend only if you have a cool ride and money to buy her gifts. So basically, life came down to having money. And I did not have much except for the allowance my father used to send me for book supplies and emergencies. My education was fully sponsored and I never asked for more, but at a very early age I decided I wanted to be rich, so that my kids will not have to only love to spend but also a load of money. When you don't have distractions, you study. That's exactly what I did. I studied my butt off and landed pretty decent job in one of the biggest corporations as an entry-level executive. But the pay was higher than a regular entry-level job, and I was proud of myself to have made it that far. When I got my first paycheck, I bought tickets for my parents to come visit me in New York. That's where I live, by the way, and I did not have much money to show them around or buy them a fancy dinner. But I still asked them to come so they can see me, well, and my rented apartment which I shared with one of my colleagues at my office. I was proud and wanted to see how good I did for myself for them. Life was going well. I got promoted within a year and now I was a team leader. I managed to get myself a rented apartment where I could live alone. Life actually became great when I met my next-door neighbor, Sarah. She was the most beautiful girl I've ever laid my eyes on. When you have survived the longest without a girlfriend, you get scared to make the first move, and I was lucky, because one day she asked me if I would like to come over for coffee at her house, and I jumped with joy initially, and smiled from the outside saying, "Sure." That was the beginning of my and Sarah's love story, and we started dating in no time, and I proposed after I got one more promotion and I was heading my department. She said yes. Life was amazing. More than I could ask for, and we planned on our wedding for summer with close friends and family. Both our parents were present to give us blessings, and now, in just 4 years after college, I had an amazing, well-paying job. I lived in New York, and I had a wife. It was so surreal. For the next 2 years, I focused on my career as I wanted to start a family, and I wished to provide all the luxuries to my kids. My aim, it was to buy a house before Sarah and I decided to have children. Sarah supported my career and never complained about me not being able to give her the time the newlyweds deserve. Climbing the corporate ladder, I became friends with my boss. His name's Mike, and he's the CEO of our company. Mike has been really the guiding angle for my career, and he's not that old to be the CEO. So it's quite impressive that he's achieved at such a young age, and he might be in like his late 30s, and he too has a wife, Emily. 4 of us, became really good friends, and it helped me reach my goals even faster. Sarah, too, was a busy girl herself. She was trying to make it as a fashion designer and was gradually heading towards success. Both of us were busy in our lives and enjoying being married. We came home late at night every day, and both of us would wait for the other to have dinner together. I was closer to my goals and planned to communicate with Sarah about having children in the next 6 months. That night, when I went home, I was ready to have the talk, and quite excited, but to my disappointment, Sarah never showed up, and I was tired and fell asleep on the couch. The next morning when I woke up, she was still asleep in the bedroom. I left a text and went to the office. The next few days went by exactly the same. Sarah used to come home much later than I expected, and of course I did not question her about her whereabouts because it was normal for us to work late and not see each other quite often. But the days seemed gloomy. Something did not feel right. And after a week of not seeing each other, I had to see for myself exactly what was happening. Of course, before going all detective, I tried to talk to her multiple times about her schedule, but she gave very vague answers, and so one day after office, I headed straight to her workplace only to find no one there. I called her from outside her office to ask her where she was, and when she picked up, there was music playing in the background, and she told me, "Hi, baby. I'll be late today. I'm sorry. Work's been crazy, and all of us are going to be stuck all night at the office. Hee hee." My heart sank at that moment, and my lips did not move, and I cut the call. Tears clouded my vision, and even though I could not see clearly, I understood everything. Sarah was having an affair, or that was the only reasonable explanation for all that was happening. I could not think clearly and went to a nearby bar just to have some me time. I lost count of the drinks after 4 pegs and passed on the bar floor. When the waiter woke me up at 3 a.m. in the night when they were closing, I walked myself home, and of course Sarah wasn't there. My head was spinning badly, and I somehow managed to fall asleep. I definitely woke up way past office hours. I heard some noise in the kitchen and went to find Sarah cooking. She was extremely casual, and that threw me off. Was I overthinking this? There's a possibility that they might be working somewhere else and not in the office. She passed a comment on my drinking and dozing off, and I smiled and said nothing. I asked her where she was last night because I wanted to discuss something important and take her out to dinner. My suspicion was confirmed when she again mentioned that she was at her office, all night, working. I had to find out why she was lying, but I was scared to know the truth. I called the office, letting them know I'm not coming, and my plan was to find some clues to understand what was going on in wife life. She left around 3 noon for work, and I stayed back saying I'm not feeling well. She kissed me goodbye on the forehead and promised to be back by 7. As soon as she left, I followed her after waiting for 5 minutes. She took out her car and went in the direction of her office. And to my shock, she actually went to her office. Nothing funny, nothing suspicious. I waited there in my car for the next half of an hour for something to happen, but nothing happened. Around 5 p.m., when I was about to give up and leave, I saw my boss's car pulling into the driveway. I ducked into my car because I did not want him to see me, basically creeping on my wife and missing work for no apparent reason. But rather than passing through me, he parked the car in my lane, and I saw Sarah coming out of the building. My body froze. My brain stopped working as I saw those two start kissing for an instant and disappeared into his car. My wife is having an affair with my boss. What do I do? Update number 1. Hey guys, so it's been a week since I found out about that man in my wife's life, and everything that was mundane for me has changed into the most difficult task. I want to share that all your responses to my situation has been very mixed, but the majority of all you suggested I confront her. And as much as I would like to, there's a major issue with this. You see, I've worked really hard to build myself strong financially, and I don't want to lose all that over my cheating wife. I don't understand why she has the need for another man. It's never been 2 years since we're married, and she's bored of us already? I'm having sleepless nights trying to find one good enough reason for my wife's actions, and so far I've literally found none. Except that she's just a horrible person and does not realize the magnitude of her actions. Also, she has zero clue that her husband has found out her dirty little secret, and my brain's dead, but few of you suggested taking Emily's help, and that's something I've been leaning my intentions onto. I think it's a good balance of saving my career and still exposing Mike and Sarah. I behaved exactly the same with Sarah, all week, so that she does not have a clue. Meanwhile, she's been discussing children and the house like nothing's wrong. It hurt from head to toe when she mentions children with me. I love her, and I would love to have kids with her. It took me less than 24 hours to accept that those dreams are dead. That my wife is manipulative and a very bad human. She sleeps with me and dreams about her future while going out with my boss and doing some stuff. I just needed to secure my position at the company before doing anything about the affair, and so I went to meet Emily. My meeting did not go as planned. We were familiar because of the formal dinner that we had, but I cannot say we were friends, and she welcomed me into our home. What happened later crushed all my hope. As I told Emily the truth about her husband and my wife, she went into a complete denial. She blamed me for having a dirty mentality and found my thoughts very offensive. I was not prepared for her reaction and simply could not do anything to make her understand the gravity of the situation at hand. She asked me in a very rude tone to leave her alone, and I obliged, but before I left, I asked her to not say anything to Mike and find out for herself before she alarms anybody. She just nodded and pointed towards the door. That was my cue and I left. 2 weeks go by, and I heard nothing from Emily. I was feeling absolutely restless. Meanwhile, these rendezvous that Mike and Sarah had continued. At least twice a week she used to stay awake all night, saying she had to work and could not come home. The fact that I knew all this was happening, I was helplessly triggering a wave of revenge and anger in me. My frustration turned into absolute rage. Now I wanted to humiliate both of them for pulling such a heinous act and pretending to love their spouses, and finally, after 2 weeks, I got a call from Emily, and she asked me to meet her, but this time not at home. We met at a cafe nearby her house, and she looked like she's been sick. I asked her if she was okay, and her eyes were deep and dark circles were hovering, and she started sobbing. I didn't know what to do, so I just let her cry it out. and I held her hand at the end of it. She gathered herself soon and took out her laptop. I was clueless because for sure I had no interest in seeing his naked husband or my wife with him. Emily showed me multiple photos of girls, all in their late 20s and mostly married. I could tell by the rings on their finger. So, what exactly am I looking at?
All these are my husband's mysteries.
My eyes dropped to the floor and you could see the nerves in my brain explode, and Emily hired a private detective to find out if my story was legit. She agreed that if she alarms her husband, there will never be a chance to know anything. But when she tried to find dirt on him and my wife, she found out about 5 other girls that this Mike was seeing. My heart breaks for her. I hate that I was the one that did this to her. Emily seems like an innocent heart and deeply loves Mike. I don't understand Mike's reasons for being a filthy dog. I looked at Emily with all the empathy that was left in me and asked her how I could help. What Emily told me next was equally as shocking. As his Casanova's husband dating 6 girls. Emily's full name was Emily McNell. Emily's father owns the company I work for, and after Emily got married to Mike, her father gave the CEO position to Mike. So Mike was not the self-created young billionaire I thought he was. She promised me I would not lose my job, but I will be promoted if I help her humiliate Mike and get a divorce. I agreed instantly. I wanted a divorce too, but there was a lot at stake for the both of us. Neither of us wanted to give a penny to our spouses in the divorce, and we decided to meet next Monday at the same spot, and until then, figure out something that was decent of a revenge. As for the proof, we have plenty. The private investigator had collected proof of Sarah and Mike. By the time I reached home, it was 8 p.m., and to my surprise, Sarah was there. She had cooked a nice dinner and asked me to freshen up ASAP so we could have dinner while it was still hot. I was deeply disturbed by the meeting me and Emily just had. For the first time, I admitted out loud that I was going to divorce Sarah. As the shower ran, my tears flowed, and I love her, and I dreamt of my life together with her.
Why was this happening to me?
And her nonchalant behavior is making my heart ache, and my ego ache. I just wanted to go out there and, hit her with some hard facts. Show her the photos Emily gave me and ask her,
what the duck is going on?
But if I do so, both Mike and her will get prepared for what's coming, and our plan to humiliate them will not allow them to take a single penny will be ruined. Moreover, I could not do this to Emily. Now she's involved in my plan, and so I went out from my shower to the dining room and did the exact opposite. I talked, I laughed, and I had dinner with my cheating wife.
Silly girl didn't even have a clue.
Update number 2. Hello. For the last month, me and Emily are meeting every Monday to discuss our further plan of action. I've had so many responses supporting the step I'm about to take, and I feel grateful for this community, because sometimes it's hard to not lose track of yourself and feel like you're the worst human on this planet to be doing this to your wife. But the positive words you all have seem like you understand where I'm coming from. I don't want to waste my entire life's work on a person who is easily having an affair with my boss. Yesterday was Monday, and this was our last meeting before we had to execute the plan. Over the course of a month, me and Emily had gathered all the proof and track records of where they both go, how much time they spend together, and what they do. Half of the information was not easy to digest, but Mike's file was much thicker than Sarah's life, and I could see the embarrassment in Emily's eyes for her husband's infidelity. Why do women think that if your husband's an a-hole, it's somehow your fault? It's not. It's not. If anything, you should be relieved that you're leaving them, and it's the best that you can heal for yourself. We came to the decision that we wanted to expose them in front of everybody, and the best occasion to do so was at our office annual function, and it was coming up in a week. How ironic. I was up for Employee of the Year, and Emily was going to be there handing awards to the employees. That was going to be the moment when we exposed them in front of everybody, and Emily wanted her family to be present, and I just wanted Sarah to be humiliated enough to have played with my love and emotion. Finally, the day came and we all gathered in the best 5-star venue in New York City, baby. My heart was thumping and I was breathing restlessly. Sarah, Emily, Mike, and me, all 4 of us were under the same roof, and our lives were about to change. Forever. Emily was on a stage handing out the awards, and the quote, Best Employee of the Year award was going to be announced towards the end. I knew I was going to get the award, but my speech was going to change the company dynamics, and, to be honest with you, I was scared. As they announced my name for the award, I went up on stage, and Emily handed me the mic, along with the award, and, well, said it's showtime. The projector behind me went blackout, and the spotlight transferred to Sarah.
Each and every person in the room turned towards her as I said these words.
This award goes to my loving wife for always being by my side and letting me fly in my career very high. Thank you for being my boss's absolute favorite and showing your true colors early in our marriage. As soon as I said those words, the projector started playing decent but intimate pictures of Sarah and Mike. The audience gasped for air, and there were slow whispers all around the room. Half of the people looked at Mike and the other half looked at Sarah. Emily snatched the mic from my hand and said, I will ruin you, Mike. Emily's father, Joshua McNell, the founder and president of the company, well, he was here. And Emily looked at him with tears. He canceled the event and asked the guests to leave. The room became vacant, leaving 5 of us only silent presented. Mr. McNeil was so furious at Mike and starts to curse him with every word I've ever heard. He warned Mike to, ruin his life and career in no time. Mike looked like he had seen a ghost, and Sarah did not have the courage to even look at me. She was looking at her heels for the next 15 minutes until I left. I went straight to my house, and as I walked into my home, everything came rushing towards me. My complicated life, Sarah's infidelity, my dreams being shattered, and the risk I've taken that might, ruin my career. I cried my heart out and felt at the most lonely I've felt in my entire life. I was about to divorce my almost new bride. We had celebrated just 1 anniversary, and I was going to crush her reputation and all of my dreams in the court for the next few months. No matter how much pity I felt for myself, I could not find any excuse or sympathy for Sarah. I knew I was doing the right thing by filing for divorce, and I opened up a nice bottle of scotch, just to help me fall asleep. It was already 2 a.m. and my mind was cursing me to not sleep. I'm almost drunk typing right now, so I hope that I've covered all the crappy details about the most horrific day I have survived. Me and Emily, we've already filed for divorce, but the lawyers were waiting to submit the paper after the annual function. We wanted to make sure that both of our spouses' acts are out of the world and let them see everything, and did not want a silent divorce. Now it's done. The paperwork will go through in no time, and we will have to face each other in court. I'll try to keep you updated in the coming days. You guys are the only ones I've been able to narrate my story to, honestly. Update number 3. I know it's been quite a while since I've posted anything about this dramatic end of the story. I don't know, like 6 or 7 months. I've lost count of time. When you're extremely happy or drastically in pain, you don't remember time. It just passes. That's what happened to me. This is my last update because the story of me and Sarah is over. I'll tell you everything, but it's hard for me to even type this. I want to say thank you in advance to all of you who had so many kind words for me and for making me believe that I am not a bad human, just one who is hurt. So, after the annual function night, I drank myself to sleep, and when I woke up in the morning, Sarah was nowhere to be found. I did not even try to look for her or call her. When I was again in a human form to talk, I called Emily asking for an update about the divorce paper, and she informed me and both Mike and Sarah will get the papers in the next 2 days. I was ready to make Sarah look me in the eyes and see that she's hurt me and she caused this for nothing. The day came when we had our first hearing. The lawyers that were pleading our side of the case were set up by Mr. McNell himself, so
I had no doubt that we were in good hands.
And, in any case, we had all the concrete proof needed to get separated from 2 cheating spouses.
It was finally time I had to tell my parents
what exactly was going on before they saw it on the news. Because, well, that's what happens when you get involved with a billionaire. When I called them, my mother started crying and feeling sorry for me. They never imagined Sarah doing something like this, but they supported my decision of going public and divorcing her, and in no time they flew to New York to support me. When we reached the courthouse, I realized Sarah was living with her parents and both of them were here with her. No matter how shameless, but parents are going to support their child, right? Fair enough. The proceedings began and our lawyers attacked everything about Mike and Sarah. Their career, their reputation, behavior, guts, you name it, and they were shamed. I felt bad for Sarah's parents to have to witness it, but it was her call to have them in the room, so this was all on her. Everything was on her. By the end of everything that our lawyers presented, there was absolutely nothing left for defense. It was pure guilt in the room.
I was 100% sure that we were going to get the divorce granted. But Mr. McNeil had other plans.
By his demand, the lawyers asked Mike to be removed from any position in the company and give him a bad character certificate, which will cause to be extra difficult to restart his career in this path. Both of them were stripped of any legal rights over finances of ours. Instead, they were asked to pay a certain amount as mental harassment charges and could not claim anything from our joint accounts or finances and, well, as our spouses.
Mike even had tears in his eyes, and Sarah had a lot of guilt.
We were all too young to have faced this, but in the end, we won. When we were driving home, I get a text from Sarah, a pleading sorry message, where she mentioned how guilty she is to have put me in this situation and that she will move out of town very soon. My parents were consoling me, and we were very upset to have talked about this any further. The case and its reality were all over the news channels with our pictures on the screen.
The whole of New York City must have known what happened between all 4 of us.
It was a sweet revenge I desired, and I know this was not the life I planned with my wife, but I truly believed what happened is exactly what she deserved. I got Mike's position as a manager exactly as promised by Sarah. And no, it was not easy walking back into that office, and my personal life was made a joke, but I will never ever compromise on my career. I still believe in love and loyalty and hope that someday I'll get the girl I deserve. I have no idea what happened to Mike, but I heard he left town too. After a business trip, my wife texted me that she was about to leave me for her rich boss. I signed the divorce papers and let her. I've been suspecting that my wife is keeping something from me for a long time. I just never thought it was this bad. I've always imagined us growing old together, moving into a smaller house close to our kids and walks at the end of the day, playing with our grandkids and reminiscing about the old times. If you told me 6 years ago that I would be in a committed relationship, I would have laughed at you. I never wanted to get married when I was younger. My own parents' failed marriage was enough to scare me of it, and I've always thought that someone who would fall out of love with the other, so they would end up hurting them. At the time, I was dating my ex Chelsea. She was a good girl, but I did not see any future with her. I wanted to be single for the rest of my life, and I did not know why I was even wasting her time. After yet another ugly breakup, I decided to pack up my stuff and move to a different city. My uncle, who was the only parent that I knew, had gotten me a better job with good pay. That was when I met my wife, and she was doing some consulting work for my uncle's firm. She was a very serious woman, beautiful, polite, but not too polite. She did not speak unless spoken to, and she appeared to be very cold. She came to his house often, and I had to interact with her. One day she was doing some work and it was getting late, but when she tried to start her car, it would not start. My uncle was not at home and my car was getting fixed, and that was the first time that we spoke. I realized that she was not cold, she was just very shy and soft-spoken. She was so freaked out about the car because she left her sick sister at home. So that night I fixed her car for her, and she was on her way. The next morning she brought me some of the tastiest quesadillas I've ever had, and she told me that she learned how to make them at her old job before she got into this field. Well, I was hooked from the very start. Everything happened so quickly. We went on a date, liked each other, and started to date. She stopped working with my uncle to prevent a conflict of interest. But it was the last thing that she did for me that made me start dreaming about a future with her. She changed me. Suddenly, I was always so worried about her, and now I wanted to be with her always. I've never considered myself to be a jealous person, but she made me one. When my uncle got diagnosed with chronic pain and his health started to deteriorate, she was there for me. He had years of treatment, but he was never going to be normal again. All he had left were years of pills and treatments to elevate the pain. She was with me as I tried to figure out how to take this, and the man who raised me was in pain and did not have the long left. He spoke to me one day after Leanna and I had been dating for 2 years. He asked me what I was doing with the poor girl. Was I going to dump her when things got real? He told me that he wished he was not alone those days, and even though I was there, it was not the same. My uncle all his life had never married. He had girlfriends that came and went, and I just wanted to be like him. I did not want to be tied down to a marriage. He told me that he was sorry that he taught me that this was the way and only way you could live life. He asked me to open my heart and consider having a family because, with me, the bloodline's going to die. His ominous words stayed with me, and I tossed around the idea in my head, and that's when I decided that he was right. I did not want to lose her. I could not imagine being with anyone else other than her. So I proposed to her, and she said yes, and we have had 4 years of maritable bliss. We have 2 children together, and she's the best mother in the world. I never noticed it when she changed, maybe because she's a good actor. I never realized that our family was holding her back from what she really wanted to be. We have a fairly good life. I make good money at my job, enough to sustain our family, and she, on the other hand, has only started working again 3 months ago. I did not want her to work, as giving birth to the last baby was a bit strenuous on her body, but she wanted to work, so hey, I'm not going to stop her. Her work hours are very abnormal, and I'm not a fan of it. We cannot afford to get a nanny, so I have to take care of the kids when she's at work. It's not a big problem, as the kids are mine. The only problem is that she never gets a second of rest. Sometimes she takes on extra work, picking up the slack for other people, and I've talked to her multiple times and reminded her that she has an 8-month-old son and a 2-year-old daughter. I have to come home from work, feed them, play with them till they finally sleep, and I've considered getting a babysitter, but she does not want to. She says that it'll be a waste of money, and what she really wants is for us to save so that we can buy a big house. Our house is an apartment with 2 bedrooms, and it's not the biggest. I would like us to upgrade at some point, but have you seen the housing market? She's told me many times to ask my uncle for money, but I don't want to. He's sick, and he does not have to be funding my lifestyle. I can work on my own to buy a house fit for my family, and I seriously did not want to stress him about money since he had to step down from his position at work recently. He's too sick to continue working, and he cannot even concentrate most times. I try to be there for him when I can, especially on the weekends. I thought that everything was okay and that she was not that mad, but me not asking for money. Little did I know that my wife was obsessed with money. I had no idea that all these years she's been comparing our life with that of her friends, and that she feels resentful of me because she's not been able to advance her career. I did not know the resentment for me never having taken trips out of the country. She feels that I'm stopping her from living a lavish life, and so she has found someone else who will do so. So now she wants me to sign divorce papers since she's fallen for her boss. Well, she tells me that he has more than enough money to take care of her. She sent all of this to me through a text message, by the way. She is somewhere right now, I think, with her sister, and I've asked her if she can come and talk to me in person about this. I feel that she's pulled the rug from beneath my feet. I had no idea that I was making her so unhappy that she preferred her much older boss. I know about her boss. He's very popular where we stay. He's old, makes a lot of money, is a widower. His wife passed away last year. How dare he move on with another man's wife? What I heard about Tom is that he's an honorable man. Never would I ever have thought that someone I respected so much would come and ruin my marriage. So here I am, sitting in this house with 2 kids. My wife has not replied to my messages. She was supposed to take them to daycare tomorrow, and guess she'll not be there. So, I don't know what the future holds. All I feel is dread. I am reminded of my parents' marriage and how ugly it turned. I don't want us to be like that. I don't want us to fight. We've never fought. We've always just communicated. Which is why I feel like this is a very crappy way to tell me that she does not love me. Update, we are done. Hey guys, another post. Thank you so much for your supportive messages, for real. I've been trying to read through them all, and before I tell you what happened with me and my wife, let me give you a bit of summary of my parents' marriage. They were 2 Broadway actors who fell in love, got married soon and had a son, and they could not take care of me because they were too focused on their dreams. There was seldom peace in the house, and they fought often. One day, the fight got so bad that they ended up hurting each other. The neighbors called the police, and my father was arrested for domestic violence. My mother refused to take me, and I was just passed around from family member to family member, but none of them wanted me. And then my uncle, whom I'm not related to, found me one day. I'd run away from home and was trying to find a job. I was 15 years of age, but lying about my age so that I could get a job. I stayed with my mother's sister, but she was a raging alcoholic. She never realized that I was gone. She never had any food in the house, so it was up to me to get food myself. My uncle, well, he was kind enough to take me in. He's taken care of me since I was 15, and it's the most important person in my life. I told myself that if my marriage ever turned bad, I would make sure to end it amicably. I don't want kids to go through what I've been through. So I signed the papers and sent them to her today. She then came by an hour ago and fetched her stuff, and she came with her sister, as she did not say a word. The last time I saw her sister, she was looking worse for the wear. My wife took care of her medical bills, and we tried to help each other out when we could. She looks so much better now. She at least had the decency to address me when her sister was in the other room. She told me that she did not agree with what her sister was doing, and she asked me to fight for full custody of the children because she didn't like the man that Liana was getting married to. I asked her why she would say that, but then Liana entered the room, and the matter was forgotten. I could not help but think about what she said, though. I'm going to give her the divorce, but it's unclear whether she wants the kids or not, and it's not like she's taken care of them for months anyways. I think that they'll be better off with me. She can go start her new life if it makes her feel better. Update number 2. 1 year has passed. Hey guys, I'm sorry I haven't updated this in a while. A lot of stuff happened in my life after I signed those darn divorce papers. My ex-wife tried to get custody of the kids, but I was able to prove to the courts that I was a fit father. I had all the proof that she spent all her time working while I took care of the children. The warning that Saskia gave me months ago kept on ringing in my head. The warning, well, I wondered what it was that she saw about that man that made her feel like that. Well, I won custody of the children. What was supposed to be a happy day for me quickly turned upside down, however. I get a call. My uncle, he's passed away in his sleep. I hated that while I was in court fighting for custody, he was busy fighting for his life. I wondered what his last words were. I was ridden with guilt and regrets, but I promised him that I would carry the family line. I changed my surname to his when he adopted me. I've not seen myself as anything else other than his nephew. A few days after we laid him to rest, I was called for the will reading, and he left his stuff to some business associate, close friends, etc., but what he left for me was surprising. Well, I didn't even know he had this. $3 million worth of assets, including his house. I was shocked. I never thought that I would inherit it, considering that he has a son. His son abandoned him years ago and did not even come to the funeral, so I guess it's not surprising that he left him with nothing. My life has changed since I came into my fortunes. I was finally able to afford to get someone to help me with the kids. I tried to be an active father in their lives, and my ex moved away. She is the town over, and I do hear about her often and see her on social medias, but we don't talk. She seems very happy, and I guess that's good for her. At least she has the wealthy husband that she's always wanted. I, on the other hand, have been growing my uncle's assets. I want to make sure that my children have a good future. I want to make sure that they never know what hunger is. There's only one thing that I live for, and that is my children. I don't see myself getting married again. I think that chapter is closed with my ex-wife. Well, tomorrow is a very big day for me, guys. For tomorrow, I'm going to make a deal that'll change my life forever, and there is a failing company that's in desperate need of help. So a friend of mine, we're pulling in resources to buy it and rebrand it, and we've made all the plans and projections, and we know that once we take over, it'll be a whole new company, and it will be successful. I wish that my uncle could see me now, but I know that he's looking down on me. Update: my ex-wife's sister showed up at the house out of the blue. Guys, you cannot make this up. I'm still shocked and still trying to wrap my head around what Saskia's told me. She's told me that my ex-wife and her husband are about to lose everything. Or actually, I bought one of their companies months ago. Remember that one that was in dire need of saving? Well, Saskia came to my house a day ago, and she has quite the story to tell. She told me that when she started to live with her sister and Tom was a very possessive person of her sister. In the beginning, he pretended to be a good person, but soon he showed his true colors. He told Saskia that she had to leave or earn her keep at the house, and since she had no skills, she had to work in the kitchen. She was always being verbally abused by him, and her sister said nothing. Her sister always had bruises on her face, even though she tried to cover them up with makeup. And then Liana's sister started taking sleeping pills so she could just deal with the pain. That was when Saskia found out from other women who worked there that the man's last wife did not have cancer. She was abused, to the point of going crazy, and one day she just woke up and she said no more. No one spoke of her again, and Saskia told me that she needed help saving her sister. Right now, her sister is very depressed, and the abuse is not stopping, and there's no one to tell or no one that would believe. She asked if I could get someone to launch an investigation into Tom's ex-wife so that maybe he could be convicted. He was slowly losing everything now, and he was taking it all out on her sister. I told her that I was not going to get involved and she should leave me alone, but she begged me. She told me that there was no one else who could help her. She didn't want to go back to that monster, so I agreed, and I asked her if she had a picture of this woman. I would get someone on it. She handed me a picture of Tom and his late wife, and my blood ran cold. Though she was much older, there's no mistaking my mother. I only remember her a little bit, but I know those eyes. So I guess she finally got what she wanted, to be a trophy wife. I cannot believe that she was so close, and she did not even look for me. She was so close, and she passed without saying sorry for how she messed up my life. I could not even look at that picture for too long without feeling a hint of rage. She was just like my wife, thinking that money could solve everything when it could not. So while I was being passed around from house to house, she was busy living that life. After my father got sent to jail, she never came back for me. Knowing that hurts me, and I cannot help but wonder if she knew that I was oh so close. All that matters now, though, what matters is the woman who was once the center of my world. She's in danger. She might have hurt me beyond anything I've ever felt, but she is still the mother of my children. I'd be damned if my kids grew up with no mom because of Tom. As for Tom, I have an axe to grind with him. So, he first took my mom, then he hurt Saskia? Now it's time for me to meet his match. I'll find out everything there is to know about that damn man, and I'll make sure that he loses everything. I want him to pay for everything that he's done. He thinks that just because he's powerful, he can get away with anything. Well, sadly for him, I'm not keen on letting him. He's messed with the wrong one. Update 2 months later. I held on to my choice. I needed to do something. I needed to find out the truth, but for me to do that, I needed Saskia and Liana out of the house. I also needed to make sure that I defeated him in business by getting as much information on him as I could. What I found out was shocking. Listen up. He met my mom shortly after she split from my dad, and he's just gotten divorced. His ex-wife cited abuse, but there was not any proof, and my mom stayed out of the spotlight for most of the years, which is strange, considering how much she wanted to be an actor. There is not much about her, except her demise from cancer. Normally, I would not be allowed to access her medical records, but since I'm her biological son, it was easy to prove it and have access to them. She was being treated, she was very sick, but it was not her body that was sick, it was her mind. My mother passed away from an overdose, but Tom lied about it. Then not even after a year, he married my wife, and at first I thought this was some sort of personal vendetta against me. The only problem was that there was nothing that tied me and Tom together. Not even my father, who disappeared without a trace years ago, and I told all of this to Saskia and told her to warn her sister about him. Saskia promised that her sister was going to come with her on a certain day, and I had already made arrangements for them to live somewhere else as my plan came into motion. The last thing I wanted was for him to hurt her. Saskia came on the day, but she told me that my sister could not leave the house, and her husband was going to be home all day as there was no way that she could sneak out. We talked throughout the day and made a plan for me to come to her house in the middle of the night and pick her up. Little did I know that it was a trap. She told the old man everything, and I still don't know why, and as soon as I got there, an armed response was being called. They hurt me pretty badly, and I had to spend the night in the hospital. He told me to stop digging around in the past or else I'll find myself in a shallow grave. It's all so surreal, I cannot believe that she betrayed me like that. I went through all that to help her, and she told him that I was coming for him, I was going to protect her, but I think that she needs to get out of this on her own. I sent her sister away. She's somewhere safe where she can have a fresh start. I've spent the past few days healing and thinking about what I want to do next. He is not a good man. He's hurt a lot of people, and he's the reason that I don't have a mother. Now, my kids have no mom, and they'll be asking me one day, why was this the case? I know most of you would tell me not to save her because she does not want to be saved. After that stunt, I was very close to not saving her, but I had to. I have to at least know that I've tried. Update 1 week later. Something came to me today. I've been looking through my mother's pictures over the years, and I've tried to get her in my mind to see what she was thinking when she was with him. I've wondered why she never had kids with him, and if I would like my siblings if I had them. I've also been speaking to one of her closest friends, and I cannot reveal too much about this person for her own safety, but she's someone who knows more than other people know. If we play cards right, this man will be behind bars before we know it. She's going to be the star witness, the one who makes sure that he is brought to judgment. And let us hope that this goes well, for if it does not, then I have nothing else. Update. A few days later, the House of Cards went down. Over the past few days, Tom has spread rumors about me, which has forced me to step away from my business. He's done this to make sure that I have no credibility. What he does not count on was him getting arrested, as he was addressing people at a charity gala. He was arrested for abusing my mom and possible homicide. When he was not granted bail, people started to realize that he might actually be guilty and that I was onto something. I made sure that I told everyone the truth, all of it. I also made sure that they all knew it if anything happened to me. It was Tom. Within a few days, his house of cards tumbled down, and this was just the push that his business needed before they all failed. It was revealed that he was behind on his tax payments, way above his overdraft, and the bank wanted his house. Liana was kicked out of the house in a very public and embarrassing way, and guess who she came for help? She told me that he found our text and made her spill everything. I want to trust her all with my heart, but all she's done in the past is just speak against her. I know that she's only coming to me because I'm the only person that can protect her. With such a scandal, it'll be a while before she finds a job in this city again. It's also worth mentioning that this woman thinks that she can now just be a good mother. She has not once asked to see the kids since she moved away, and she thinks that I've forgotten how she was quick to jump to someone with more money. Now she wants to beg for forgiveness because her cash cow is in jail? There is one thing that makes me think that she is insincere, and it's the fact that she has not respected my wishes. I told her not to speak about my mother. The topic has always been off limits, but it's even worse now that I know what her final days were. I still need time to process that she's never came back for me. I get that she was in an abusive marriage, but she could have left. She could have done so many things. I told Liana not to mention her because I was trying to keep her off my mind. But she keeps on talking about it and is getting very, very annoying. She keeps on saying that she was under a spell and, well, just made her act a bit different. It still does not change the fact that she had an affair with her boss. It was just her luck the man was a jerk who was damned to lose everything that he had. I'm just trying to figure out how the hell I can go and get her out of my house. I'm just scared that if I let her leave, then something bad will happen to her. So now I don't know what to do. I don't want her in my house. She brings back so many painful memories. About 6 months later, time for the final update. The past few months have been difficult as I've had to force my past, and I guess it was long overdue. But I was in a bit involved in the case due to Saskia telling me what was happening in the house. So, his defense was strong, and they tried to twist it some other way, but they did not count on so many witnesses who came forward. Even his employees testified that he was cruel to them. He also had the case of tax evasion and other financial problems, which were cases of their own. In my mother's case, he got 5 years, and for abusing my ex, he got a year. He's still being tried for his business and crimes, and finally my ex moved out of my house. She found a job and is staying around town, and I let her see the kids on the weekend, but that's all. She had to move out after she started to be an issue in my house. Whatever sleeping pills she was taking, she got addicted really fast. So I told her to get some help, but she refused. She refused to get help, and she refused to leave the house, so here I was stuck caring for a grown woman who got herself into this mess. I apologize if I have no mercy. I did my part by saving her, and I think I deserve the rest. When she started stealing from me, though, I knew enough was enough. I sent her to get some help and told her that if she ever relapsed again, then she was not going to see the children. Her sister helped her out and supported her as she got better, and she's so lucky that her sister sticks with her. Saskia even got a job waitressing and was able to support the two of them for months before Liana got a job. This is a huge milestone for her, because Saskia has been sick for many years, and I will not reveal what she's been sick with. All I can say is that she's better now. So, I'm beginning to have a normal life, raising my kids and growing my business to make sure that my kids are well taken care of when they grow up. I don't want them to ever rely on someone else. Lord knows there are very few people like Uncle Steve who actually have a good heart in this world. So that's all I live for. My children. I know I cannot rely on their mother. Even though she's working now, she's not living with me. She's always bothering me. She's always getting into crap and expecting me to get her out. I try to cut her off when it gets too much, but I guess my heart is just too good. It is definitely my own fault and something that I need to work on. I loved my mother until her last day. She was my everything, and we always supported each other in all our projects, at least until she passed away 3 years ago. and left a huge void in my heart that I thought I could make up for with my wife, Melissa. However, my mother had only one pseudo-negative side that I did not realize. Her husband, Richard. You see, Richard is my stepfather. They were married about 10 years ago, and I must admit that he was not a bad father figure. He was the one who taught me how to drive back in the day, how to calculate my taxes. I mean, I say all the good stuff first so I don't feel bad about the next thing, alright? For a while now, Melissa's behavior had been a little strange. I know I reminisced a lot about my mom, and according to Melissa, there were whole days when I seemed to be depressed about it. I don't think I can be blamed, as a loss like that is not easy to get over. Anyways, Richard comes into the equation because one day I was using Melissa's phone to answer some messages from her work. Nothing bad. It was the typical movie scene where she was taking a bath and she gets a work text, and since I know her business well, I decide to reply, even warning her on doing it, but in the middle of replying, Melissa gets another text, and since the notification pop-ups on the screen, I ended up reading it. It was from a certain Rick. The message started with, "Hey, Millie," and that alerted all my senses. This is because I'm the only one who calls Melissa Millie, as it's a nickname I gave her when we first met. And until now, no one else had dared to call her that. Because of that, and the fact that this Rick did not have a last name in his contact profile, it did catch my attention with a red flag. I felt a little bad about that, but I wanted to get out the doubt. So I opened up the message, and what I found left me paralyzed with horror. In the message, Rick was apologizing for writing her at the time, knowing the hours he could write her, but he told her that he could not stop thinking about her and blah, blah, blah. When I looked at the rest of the conversation, there were a lot of deleted messages and another one-time view message. I began to tremble with fear, as my worst fears came true. Melissa was having an affair with somebody else. And as you can tell from the beginning of this writing, you may already have an idea who it is. Who was this Rick? And, well, was it the same guy? I knew it was Richard, my stepfather, and that's when I hatched a plan to confirm it. First, I sent a message to so-and-so Rick. I told him I wanted to see him the next day in a certain part of town. But he had to be sitting at such and such table in a green shirt, something he did not quite understand at first, and I just told him to do it, but that it was something a bit risky. So I had to delete the message that were exchanged earlier, so I was able to erase the evidence. The next day, I would be facing the character in question. Without him knowing it was about me, it gave me a lot of courage. I'm not a violent person, but given the situation, I don't like to be seen as a fool. The next day, I armed myself with my best arguments in a public place to confront the scoundrel who was making passes at my wife. But the shot backfired when I arrived at the appointed place only to find a person in a green shirt. That's right, you guessed it, it was Richard. He looked a little uneasy, perhaps knowing that what he was doing was wrong, but never caring in the first place. I decided to play with the situation a bit. I met him on the street, asked him what he was doing there. I tried to keep him from noticing, but he seemed to be sweating a little too much. He told me he was waiting for somebody, but only that he did not give any more details and left the place. Maybe he was afraid I was going to confront him. I swear I don't know how I held back the urge to smash this guy's face in. I know you have to keep a cool head in these scenarios, and although I don't want to think the worst at least, well, I did go home with an uneasy conscience. That night, I asked Melissa about her relationship with Richard, and she immediately began getting uncomfortable and defensive. She avoided my questions and told me she did not understand what I was even talking about. Well, I told her right off the bat that I had been suspecting things like that. Richard was seeing somebody else. I said I had no problem with it, as he deserves to move on with his life too. It just hurt a little that he wasn't confident enough to tell me since we were so close. Instead of telling me to try to talk to him about it, Melissa told me to leave it alone, as it was his private life, and if he did not comment on it, maybe it was out of embarrassment or something. So, it's best to just keep it to himself. Well, I went ahead and insisted a bit and ended up stating that I asked her about her relationship with Richard, so that she would be the one to ask him about it. Inside, I felt a little broken by all the lies being told to my face, so I told myself that if I was going to try something bold, I would at least need hard evidence. I started to map out a plan regarding the phones. What's up, everybody? Mr. Reddito here. So today's story is a crazy, deceitful, backstabbing betrayal. There is 6 action-packed updates. Guys, let's go ahead and jump directly into update 1. If you're not subscribed to the channel, just know it's the best way to support me. And only 8 people that watch this video are subscribed to the channel, so come on, click that button. Update number 1. Unfortunately, the plan worked out all too well. And after checking through fake messages, I learned that both parties, my wife and stepfather, were yes, indeed, having an affair right underneath my nose. Life can sometimes be cruel to you, and this time it was my turn to pay the consequences. I took screenshots of the conversations and just decided to confront them both. I decided to have a small dinner between the 3 of us where I would expose them both as the traitors that they were. Those traitorous rats! Well, the dinner was awkward, as they were both quieter than usual, thinking I knew more than I should. And after dessert, I began to speak. Well, I think it's time we talked. Let's go ahead and mention this big old elephant in the room. That was enough for both of them to give rather desperate answers. While Melissa looked quizzical and confused, avoiding giving an objective answer, Richard remained crestfallen, like a scolded child, so I insisted that they give me an explanation, but they continued to dodge everything for quite a while. It was not until I showed the evidence that they finally decided to give it up. Here is the summary of each of their points. Richard goes first by basically saying this. I'm sorry, kiddo. I didn't mean to hurt you. We're vulnerable and impressionable people, and sometimes we just fall into a dark abyss. I'm not making this up. And good people end up committing despicable acts. No one can replace your mother. When he touched on the subject of my mother, I interrupted him and lost my temper and almost lunged to punch him in the gut. Melissa stopped me. She stepped in, something that made me even more angry, and I would write her version now, but I feel like I'll break the keyboard for typing so darn fast. She was more blunt, more of a rant. She was saying about how our marriage was faltering and how Richard, who did have experience in the field, began to help her with various issues. First, giving his point of view, and then moving on a bit more. From anger, I felt vomit. It was in the back of my throat, but I had to hold it in as not to appear weak. They began to justify their infidelity and then said they were going to make it all up to me, as if something like that could be repaired. So I started yelling at them. And being that the neighbors could hear everything because the whole block went into a spectral silence, I'd never felt this furious. And had it not been because we took the knives off the table, I felt that something serious could have happened. And I leave a record of all this because I know that everyone is usually kept anonymous. Amid a sea of tears from everyone involved, we agreed that, everybody would leave the place on their own, leaving me alone in the house that night. I didn't exactly know where Melissa went to spend the night, but I admit that it made me a little anxious to think that she had gone with Richard. Although given the situation, I didn't think it was entirely feasible either. Update number 2. Hey guys, so a few weeks have passed since the ultimate event, and I tell you, I'm not at my best. This ended up being the beginning of a bad streak for me. First of all, due to my bad emotional state, I could not perform well enough at work, so I almost lost my job. And to top it off, the rumor of infidelity has spread to several voices in and out of the offices. Yeah, this is a small town, so any rumor seems to be national news, and a lot of people know me and knew my mother. So knowing what happened is a terrible shame. I know Melissa and Richard must be having a hard time too though, but I honestly could care less. She tried to reach me a couple times by calling, it was twice in a row, but I would instantly cut her off out of anger. It was only 2 calls she tried, and then she didn't want to have any more contact. Well, with Richard, the story was different, but not better. He did approach me out of the blue at the house, saying that I should reconsider forgiving Melissa. He said she was young and an impressionable girl. And if there was a culprit here, it was him. I did not accept those apologies, and I just began to insult him, saying that he had offended not only me, but the memory of my mother. I told him how much I appreciated him and that for me, he now should, well, go to hell, the place where he and Melissa belonged. The guy starts crying and I couldn't have cared less. I just thought about how long they have been in the practice of doing what they were doing. Well, and right under my nose at that. It sickened me just to remember them as part of my life, and I have told myself that I must do something about it before I end up in a crazy asylum. I talked to an old friend, my friend Lola, who was the one who introduced Melissa and me originally, and she was also outraged about it. She even apologized for introducing her and felt it put a great wrong on me. She commented that she had not spoken to Melissa since and was hesitant to do so, even though she was close friends with her. However, she asked me a rather curious question, and it was about shared assets within the marriage. I told her that we had not signed prenuptial agreements, as we felt we would never need it. In retrospect, that was not very smart, was it? And it was Melissa who told me originally to sign them. In that case, as divorce is just another one around the corner, I suppose that may or may not be beneficial since a lot of what we have in place was mine. I don't know how she would react, if she would be one of those remorseful people who will give me everything just to have my forgiveness or not. However, there's something that worries me, and that's why I kept talking to Lola about my house. The house where Melissa and I lived belongs to her. Or, well, to her family. It belonged to an aunt of hers, and they let us stay there indefinitely. I'm in constant fear that she will at any moment remember this information and run me out of the place. I mean, under the circumstances, it would be miserable of her to throw me out on the street, but she cheated on me. So, anything could happen. And at this point, maybe the calls she's been making to me lately are just for that. Update number 3. Hey guys, some things in my life must move forward to improve. Forward or upward. In my case, it's something a little more specific and it has a name. Colombia. I came to Colombia a few months ago, and before I start with my story in the country, I feel I should tell you why I made such a radical decision. Well, remember the deal with my ex-wife and stepfather? Well, after that, a little less than a year ago, I fell into a tremendous depression. The worst I had ever seen in my life, and even after a couple times considering the most horrible fate of all, to, well, hurt myself. However, with the support of my friends and my psychologist, I was able to get through it. And how? I talked about changes and about how I didn't seem to have overcome my mother's grief, so I had to make radical changes to my life, and after much mediation and a little bit of meditation, I felt that a new residence in the city would be counterproductive. As I said, the town was nice but small, and everyone knows each other there, so I was proposed to go to another city, and I did. I stayed in a nearby city for at least a couple months, long enough for my new job to give some useful contacts. Among them, a coworker, who recommended me an international help website, and I don't understand it well at first, but after some research, I learned that it was the equivalent of the Golden Goose. What do I mean? Well, it's a place where people from other parts of the world have the opportunity to work in other countries, getting to know the cultures and customs of other places while being productive. At first, the idea seemed very adolescent and fanciful, but little by little it caught my attention. There were several places: Iran, Russia, Australia, Egypt, Brazil, Romania. But in the end, I chose Colombia. Latin America was a place rich in culture. Our neighbors to the south, my mother used to say, and she influenced my decision a lot, because she lived there for a year in her youth, and she said it was one of the most beautiful experiences that she's ever had in life, so why not? Apart from the job in the new city, I had gotten an online job that allowed me to move around more easily no matter where I was. I might as well keep working as long as I had a laptop and internet connection. So I decided to take a big leap and make the necessary arrangements to move to Colombia. I sold a lot of my things and got rid of almost all my possessions to be able to afford everything. But everything that belonged to me from my marriage was able to leave through the big door. I decided to stay out of the public eye for a few weeks, with no contacts of any kind, and ignored all communication with both Melissa and Richard, who insisted on calling or texting. I don't know if ghosting is good practice, but in my case, it was the healthiest thing I could resort to without going insane. Eventually, they stopped the calls, but ever so often I would get a missed call from them. The funny thing is that it was always a long-distance communication issue. They never agreed to show up at the door of my residence, although I don't think I would have opened it anyways. And that's how I headed to Colombia. I felt sad about the previous job I had, but I also considered that going to a place so far away with the different customs and even a different national language could make positive changes, with so many possibilities at hand. I was a new man, ready to eat the world. I just needed to be introduced to that said world. And if they only knew that I did not do so badly with the language issue, thanks to my mother at school, my Spanish classes were bearable as possible, getting only passes in all my reports, but of course, I had to polish up a lot. But in a matter of a few months, I was able to handle the language really well, good enough to be able to order at the grocery store. The job I had consisted of being an assistant in a law firm, answering calls, redirecting cases, something not so difficult, that although it was a little cumbersome at the beginning because of the language barrier, it would end up being more bearable with the help of my superiors and the patterns that were repeated in all the conversations. Only a small group was the one who knew that I had moved. As I didn't used to post in social networks, well, I wanted to update the big changes I was going through, and that's how I was in such a beautiful place. Looking forward to a bright future, I went to disengage from a lot of things, and now it's a blank page for me, so I just have to worry about how I will do tomorrow. I'm worth a lot, and nobody can change that. Update number 4. Hey guys, I'll be honest, I had already forgotten about these updates as I was very distracted during all this time in Colombia making a new life for myself, but there will always be ghosts in the closet that drag you back from the past. I thought the whole thing with my ex-wife and my old stepfather was over, but they reappeared. Well, the first one, actually. An old friend told me that Melissa, now involved in several economic conflicts, has begun to spread the rumor that her husband had left her at his mercy, without a single penny, and that he's now living the good life abroad without giving her what she deserves. In reality, we never even signed the divorce, so legally we're still together, claiming that I don't correspond to her calls and that her evil husband left her broke. When in reality, I never had anything to do with her walking away before hurting her myself more. And to top it all off, something that surprised me quite a bit, she's now moved on to a more religious path. That's right, she's now evangelical or something, but in a very radical sense. From what I understand, she's one of those religious people who spend their time criticizing every aspect of other people, believing that they're saints after having been the opposite. She's just one more that groups of those people that thinks that after having done horrible things in her life, she can just get away with repenting and that's it. And worse, because she's even pretending to humiliate me for something she did wrong. And that I'm doing right for myself now, what does she even get to pretend? Well, that I should take care of her and give her everything she needs after all the damage she's done? I'm sorry, but I'm not that dumb. My friend told me that she had even commented that she had talked to me and that I insulted and offended her about various personal things. My friends have been, quote, countering by telling other people that all of what she's saying is a lie and that Melissa is just taking it up upon herself to make me look bad for something she did. All of that makes my blood boil, but what keeps me most curious is that Richard does not make an appearance in any of the stories I'm telling. I haven't really heard from him in a long time. He wasn't much of a social networker, and since I blocked him, the less I was going to be seeing him. However, in a brief past recently, I saw that he had not posted anything in quite a while. So, the mystery increases. I thought he blocked me, but no. Many had asked me about him for the same issue. I neither worry nor care, though. As for me, to say something a bit more positive, I've been doing quite well. As I said at one point, I started working at a law firm as an assistant, but after a while, things did not go so well, and I ended up working at a supermarket on a pretty heavy schedule. And although the pay was good for a while, the workload was simply just too much for me. Eventually, I was able to work my way up the ladder and even becoming branch manager. Something that surprised many people because of the short time I'd been there. And currently, I'm still there, going every week with simpler hours, and enough time to be able to do my own thing on the weekends. I've met a couple girls that I've even been able to date, and I admit that the single life has suited me just fine out here in Colombia. Of course, I haven't progressed any further in that regard. It's always been casual outings, and with very few people I've been able to have the freedom to talk as much as I did in my old hometown. About my mother's issues. I've been able to overcome them a little, but only a little. As it's a delicate thing, I feel that I failed her in many things, but beyond that, I try to make an effort every day to make her proud from a distance. Update number 5. The world is made of coincidences. Barely a day's passed since my last update number 4, and I'm faced with the news of Richard's passing. It's been 3 years since the whole conflict between us went down. And just yesterday, I was writing about it, but today I learned from a friend that Richard was found dead in Greece. Well, apparently he went on a trip of his own. He had moved to the place long ago, following more or less my same method, and then dedicated his life to the sea. I won't judge anything because, as I said, he did the same thing I did, but I'm somewhat amused. I admit that apparently after all the conflict, he stopped maintaining a relationship with Melissa, leaving her abandoned as well. There are comments circulating that Melissa is not only unfaithful, but that she's dedicating to ruining men's lives that she's involved with, and that anyone who's with her will end up out of the country. From a certain perspective, it sounds even comical, but that's not the point now. Yeah, Richard died. He's to be buried tomorrow, and apparently some of his family wants me to attend, but they'd understand perfectly well if I chose not to. So, they know me also pretty good, and they know it's not my place. Despite the huge fault he had, he was a normal person like any of us. And although I don't forgive him for what he did, at least I can consider it all settled with his departure from this world. In therapy sessions I had, there was a lot of talk about resentment and revenge. And I went from having an active hatred for those people to being a little more permissive about it. I mean, in the sense that it's not worth getting so angry about it. Sure, I resonate a lot with Melissa talking trash behind my back, but everything always comes to a satisfying end at the end of the story. Well, to Richard's relatives, I simply gave my condolences and success in whatever they were going to do. And they wished the same for me, with apologies that went through me as they weren't the ones who actually did anything or the ones who should give them away in the first place. Update number 6. Final update posted by OP. Now that I have a little free time, after all the hassle I went through, I can finally sit down and tell you everything that's happened to end it. First, I will explain that the reason for my absence is that my lawyer advised me not to expose part of the situation I'm about to tell you until the trial's over. And once the verdict was given, I can finally write all this. To hell with Melissa. That woman is the most despicable, vile, manipulative, and conflictive being I've ever met. She achieved even the impossible, and that was to make me send, well, to hell basically all the past relationships we had, as she ended up being my biggest enemy ever after the trial that went down. Well, let me explain more in detail, because as I said, now I have the time to do it, after long 2 months. Finally, the winner will give his story. It turns out that after Richard's death, almost all the assets he owned became Melissa's, as a matter of his will that he made years ago. Apparently, in the midst of his frenzy to spoil Melissa during the relationship behind my back, Richard had this weird kink about, quote, being part of her life in ways that I wasn't aware of, such as giving her gifts or accompanying her on errands, always with the excuse of having time with his daughter-in-law. Ew. Anyways, during that time, Richard committed the audacity to put Melissa in his will, and guess what? Give her all the assets while he's at it, as he felt it would be a help to her regardless of the outcome of our marriage. Don't ask me, a man's mind in the throes of passion can become a confused and erratic space. The affair began when I found out about the division of these assets. You see, being informed by one of Richard's nephews about everything that would be Melissa's property now. Truth be told, Richard had quite a few things to his credit. I'm talking cars, a couple houses, an apartment, and even a farm outside of the state, and we all agreed she did not deserve it. What's more, I was told that Richard himself had regretted his will, but he let time go by during his stay in Greece and never thought of amending it again in itself. Everyone said that what he had left was going to be left to me, and it made me feel bad that Melissa would just take it all. But there was something interesting that would change everything. In the same way that Richard let the modification of his will go through, not having signed the divorce with Melissa would, in theory, make the holder of 50% of his property. And that's when I talked to my lawyer. I won't say his name, I'll just say that, well, he is perhaps one of the people I'm most afraid of because of how smart he is. He's known to be a divorce and marital dispute lawyer, one of the sharpest and shrewdest there is, and with an almost 100% success rate. And that's when I jumped in with a joint property settlement by marriage. Sometime later, I learned that he was sought after by Melissa, but she did not have enough money to hire him. He's not cheap. but I decided to throw my savings into the oven to have something more secure. It was then that I learned something depressing. I learned Melissa had gotten into this new religion just for financial convenience, as she was doing terribly in her decision-making and would fight tooth and nail to have everything in Richard's will. While I could have a solid basis with regards to the assets, for it was clearly stipulated that she would own the whole thing, it was then that my lawyer appealed to one little detail: infidelity. It was said that due to violation of the marital agreement and because they were not signed prenups, there had to be an equitable distribution of assets, so we took care of that so that Melissa would not have a chance to win. You should have seen her face when they gave the verdict. She was red as a tomato, and almost regretful of everything she did. It's been a few weeks now, and the results shocked me by how gray it was. Melissa lost everything in the blink of an eye? How? No idea. My lawyer said it was amazing how someone could handle her newfound fortune so badly, and I feel like I dodged a bullet by separating from her. Of course, the divorce was discussed right after the split, and that meant that once separated, she could no longer argue for my part of the deal. I admit that my time in Colombia was amazing, but coming back with heavy pockets is a more rewarding experience. No one speaks to Melissa nowadays, and her religious friends only speak to her out of politeness, leaving me with the more moral that eventually karma will exist for those who harmed you. I did not see my wife's true colors until the last time I lost my job. I used to have a senior position in a big company. My job had a lot of perks and paid well. It was such that my wife of 4 years did not have to work. I took care of her. She was a good wife, taking care of the household, myself and my mom. My mom's very old, and I decided that she would stay with me instead of going to the old age home like my siblings wanted her to. I stopped talking to my siblings over the matter. They did not value all that her mom did for us so that we could get to where we are now. Now that she's old, blind, and needs care, they want to lock her away with strangers and just forget about her. I could not let such a thing happen, so I took her to stay with us. Enid and Mom got along as far as I knew, and if they had any issues with each other, I never knew. If my wife told me that there were certain aspects of her life she was unhappy about, I would have done anything to make her feel comfortable. When she quit her job because she hated it, I found no trouble in providing for her. Money wasn't a big deal for me. I used to take care of my loved ones and live a comfortable life. This was why, when I was implicated in cash that had been stolen at work, it was a surprise. The person I worked with was one that was not to be trusted, but since he was the boss's nephew, they made me the scapegoat and fired me. I did not go on my record, and I still got some compensation, but now I had to look for a job. Well, I found a job, but it was a huge downgrade from the one that I previously had. So my wife, who does not like working, told me that she wanted to do some modeling work. She's 32 and still looks very youthful at the time, so I didn't stop her. The choice was hers as long as she was happy. I went to some of her shoots when I had time, and I could see that she was truly happy. With her gone, we hired a nurse to take care of my mom day and night. For months, such a setup worked for us. That was until I saw those cufflinks. I was looking for my tie. Enid was out on a shoot, and I did not want to bother her, so I started searching on my own, and I found a very big box. Thinking that maybe she put my tie in it with all her other stuff, I opened it up, finding mostly her stuff there, but then I came across a set of cufflinks. I could see that they were from a very expensive brand that I couldn't afford. She had no brothers, so why did she have these expensive cufflinks? I was mildly disturbed as to why she would have cufflinks that belonged to a man in her stuff, but I thought there was probably just a reasonable explanation, and she was not really cheating. When she came home, I asked her what's up with the cufflinks, and she immediately starts laughing and told me they were for me. She forgot to give them to me. She told me that she was given them at a shoot. She was told to give her husband or a friend. I felt really dumb for suspecting her like that, but then my mother told me to be careful. She said that my wife thought that just because she's blind, she couldn't hear. But my wife had been lying to me about some times when she was going to a shoot, since she was using my car most of the time. She thought it looked better with her, and who was I to argue? I decided to track my car. Not once did my wife go near the places where she said she was going. Yet somehow, she still came home with money that she worked. But she did not go to her particular address more times than once. When I searched the address, I found out that it did belong to a photographer. I asked my cousin, who's 20, if she could find out more about the photographer. As soon as she saw the pictures of him, she said that she knew him. She told me that he's very popular among some of her peers for filming content for them. I could not deal with it anymore. I was losing my mind, going crazy. When my sister told me that kind of content it was, I went sick to my stomach. We had agreed that she would keep her modeling tasteful, so why was she doing this? Had all other shoots just been a front for what she was really doing? As far as I knew, that sort of content had a lot of money to it, but we did not need all that money. Sure, we had to cut down on a few things, but hey, I thought we were happy. I decided to visit the man and tell him to fire her. She'd failed to be transparent to me and did not think about how what she was doing was going to reflect on our family. She could have at least told me this was what she was doing. So I went to see the photographer. I told him about my wife and asked that he should just stop filming her. His name was Raphael, and he had a very impressive studio. His work appeared to be tasteful, but I did not let that fool me. Raphael did not appear fazed by my words at all. He told me that even though he did film that kind of stuff, the only modeling my wife did was hand modeling as well as small campaigns. Then he showed me a portfolio of her work, and I just felt so stupid. I apologized for what I accused her of and left. But before leaving, I had a moment of deja vu. I asked Raphael not to tell Enid, and he swore. He said he got complaints from husbands all the time, so he got where I was coming from. The man who walked me out was familiar. Something about the studio, or was it him, made me feel like I was living through something again. I shook it off as nothing. 3 days later, my wife was rushing to work and she left her bag in our room. I quickly took it and rushed outside before she could pull out the driveway so that I could give it to her. I managed to reach her in time and give it to her, but when I came back, I stepped on something in the driveway. I picked it up, only to see that it was a positive pregnancy test. I was over the moon. Finally, we were going to have a baby. I ran indoors and told my mother the good news, but told her to hush because she had not officially told me that she was expecting. It was insane. No wonder she'd been having those mood swings and have been ignoring me the past few days. I wanted to make up for how I'd been so suspicious of her, so I got off work late and decided to make dinner for her. I would make very good food if I do say so myself. My mother taught me well. I sent her a message asking her what time she was coming home, but I got an error message. I checked the Wi-Fi connection, but it was stable. Then I saw that her profile picture was blank. I tried to call her, but I was told that she was unavailable. All of her social media was gone, and I was worried. She was in such a fragile state. This was not the first time that she's blocked me. A simple thing could tick her off, and then she would just deactivate her social media accounts until she saw she was okay. On those days, she went to her mother's house to rest. I'm not supposed to disclose her exact condition, but she suffers from a personality disorder. She's kept it managed for years, but some days are not good days. I did what I usually do when this happens, and it's to check if she's arrived at her mom's house. Her mom could at least confirm with me if she was still breathing. In panic mode, I called her mom. Her mom told me that she was okay, but she just needed some time. I was deflated, excited about the earlier news, but feeling empty because she was not here. Maybe she was having second thoughts about a baby, and she did not want me to find out. I went upstairs for the first time that day, and I was met with emptiness. She had taken her mirror, her jewelry box. Her closet was empty. There was not even an item of clothing left. I called my mom's nurse, asking if she knew anything, which was when she produced the letter. The letter was from her. It read this: Dear John, I love you, but I can't stay anymore. I feel suffocated. I need to breathe. I don't think this life is the life for me. Don't look for me. Pretend I have ceased to exist. I just can't do this anymore. Goodbye. I told Dee, the nurse, to leave, and then I punched the wall so hard my knuckles started bleeding. She did not leave a trace when she left me, carrying my baby. A few days later, I heard the news that Raphael had fled town and eloped with a woman. That had me thinking about whether the baby was mine or not. The worst part, I'll never know, and I was left here in this house that feels emptier each day. My mother passed away a few months ago, and before she passed, she told me that time would heal me. But it's been 6 months since she's left, ghosted me, and has not contacted me. I still go to work, come back home, and I drink till I pass out. I don't think I have a drinking problem, but I think I am depressed. I have no one left in the world. She's out there, happy. I still don't know what I did for her to cheat on me, and I ask myself those questions every single day. Sometimes I feel that I should not respect her choice, that I should say darn it all and hunt her down like a bounty hunter. I want her to look me in the eyes and tell me it's over, not with some stupid letter. Gosh, I feel so pathetic. I guess the reason I'm even sharing any of this is that so anyone can know how I'm feeling. I've not opened up to any friends or family, and I fear being seen as weak. So I put up the mask of being unaffected in front of them, and they don't ask any questions. I also need to ask, is there a way, any way, I can move on with life? I feel so tired. I just don't know what to do. Update 2 months later. After sharing what happened with you, I slept easier that night. The next morning, I felt a bit lighter. I started to clean out the house and throw her stuff away for good this time. Within the next week, I went out to play golf with a buddy. I did little things within these 2 months to regain my life. I also started to attend weekly counseling sessions. Those opened my eyes to the fact that maybe I was dealing with a narcissist. I'll not go into detail about the very beginning stages of our relationship, but there was so much that I let her get away with, just red flags, because I didn't want to lose her. It makes me wonder, did my love for her turn into an obsession? I've been doing the most difficult thing that a human can do, and that's to talk to myself in a brutally honest manner. Through that, I've slowly started to let light into my life again. I really believe that I'll be okay one day. When I read through my last post, I realize that I don't feel that anger and sadness anymore when I was writing it. It's slowly fading away. Thank you everybody for the comments and suggestions you've given me on how to move on. I think I can do it. Alright guys, Mr. Reddito here. So, it's been a year. Everyone thought that this was just over with since nobody posted an update to this for a whole 367 days. But oh no! Exactly almost 1 year later, OP says this. It's now a year after my last post. So many good things have happened to me ever since that post. I stopped thinking about her and what she did to me, and soon I was able to get back to living. My work improved and I was able to get a transfer and even a promotion. The area I now stay in is very quiet, small, and cozy, perfect for me and my fiancé. Yes, my marriage to Enid dissolved more than a year ago. I did not lose anything to her, thankfully, and we went on our way. I've not seen her in over a year and a half, but I'm convinced that the child she was carrying was not mine. Why else would she run away with some photographer? Either way, I've forgiven her because I am a decent person, and not because she deserves it. Well, I met my now fiancé when she was involved in an accident on the side of the road. The person who hit her car ran away like a coward, and she was late for a meeting. I memorized the number plate of the car. My memory is excellent, by the way. And then I walked up to her and said it, without even saying hi. She looked at me like I was crazy and was about to start shouting for help. Until I told her it was the number plate of the person who hit her car and ran. She was very thankful to me. I stayed with her as she called the police and got through the formalities. I don't know what made me want to stay there and make sure she was okay. Well, She took me out for coffee afterwards, and the rest is history. I'm just so happy these days. I guess my mom was right. It does heal over time. I just feel so much more youthful and have not resorted to my bad habits in so long. My fiancé and I are expecting a baby soon, and we're planning a small wedding with other families and friends. I love my job, and I've been able to advance further over the past year. The problem comes with the fact that I've been dreaming of Enid, and, well, it's a little unsettling. Sometimes when I'm out, I think that I see a glimpse of her and it scares me. It feels like I'm trying to chase a ghost at times. The dreams about her are not pleasant at all, but I know better than to look for her. She made her decision when she left me out in the cold with her questions. She didn't even send condolences when my mother passed. I've worked so hard for all that I have. I don't want or need her in my life, to be honest. What should I do to make these dreams stop, though? I'm thinking of getting sleeping pills. With sleeping pills, I hardly ever dream. When I spoke to my best friend Peter about it, he told me that, in his belief, dreaming about an ex means that there's something unresolved. But if there's something unresolved, will that mean I have to look for her and find out what it is? I'm happy, I told Peter. I don't need her crashing into my life and burning everything she touches like she usually does. I did not get here easily. Mr. Reddito here. I hope you guys are enjoying this wild story. If you thought it was wild so far, you are not ready for the next part because it's about to take a sharp turn. You know what? I'll just read you the title of this update. She's back, and you'll not believe what she's saying. Well, my last post aged pretty poorly, I'll say. I did not look for her, she found me. Somehow, I've changed my number, job, and address, but somehow she still found me like Inspector Gadget. She sent me a text asking me to meet not even 2 weeks after I started dreaming about her. There was nothing I wanted to say to her, so I blocked her. She called her phone many times, and Claire got very suspicious about what I was getting so many phone calls about. I had to lie to her and say that I accidentally subscribed for a telemarketer to call me. I felt bad when the very next day she got our phone changed because she wanted me to have some peace. Peter told me that maybe I should tell her the full story about what happened and not just summarize versions. Did I listen? No, I don't ever listen to Peter. I should have listened because Enid showed up at my fiancé's workplace with a child that she says is mine. I was at work thinking of getting a restraining order against Enid. Well, speak of the devil, and she shall come knocking. Claire called me saying that a woman was claiming to be my wife who came here with a young boy who's supposed to be my son. After all these years, wow, she has perfect timing to ruin my life for a second time, doesn't she? I've mourned her and that child, buried them in my mind, and then they come waltzing back into my life as if nothing's happened. I told Claire that I would talk to her later and then sent a text to Enid, asking her if she's crazy. I told her to stay the heck away from my fiancé, and she said she's been trying to get my attention, but I was ignoring her. Did she think she could just waltz back into my life and I was going to welcome her back with no questions asked? I was shaking. I didn't know the child was mine, and I'm still trying to process all this. Finally, I got the guts to tell her that we could meet up and talk the next day. When I got home, Claire was furious, rightfully so. She asked why I did not tell her that I have a child, and she asked why was I still married to Enid. Well, I'm not married to her. I don't know what she's even on about. I had no choice but to brutally be honest, go into deep detail about what happened, and ask for forgiveness. Well, Claire forgave me, telling me that she was going to be there for me no matter what, and I do not deserve that kind of loyalty. I'm just so lucky to have her. The next morning, I met with Enid. Claire waited in the car while I talked to Enid. Seeing her for the first time since a year and a half ago was definitely a shock to my system. She's changed so much. It's honestly hard to recognize her. She was once full of light, energy, and passion, but the person standing in front of me had aged 10 years. She had the smell of cigarettes on her, and had gained quite a few bit of pounds. Next to her was a young boy, with big eyes and a scrawny body. I sat down without talking to her and ordered something. Then I greeted her. She just busted out crying out of nowhere and said that she was glad to see that I was well and fared better than she had. After she left me, she continued to model for Raphael until her tummy started poking. She had no choice but to tell him that she was pregnant, but he wanted her to abort the baby. She didn't want to, so he dumped her. Since then, her life went downhill fast and she struggled to take care of the baby. And then she told me that she wanted to have our life back, just me, her, and our son. Excuse me, did I have the word fool written on my forehead in permanent marker? I told her that I moved on and I don't want her back. So then she brought out the big guns. The manipulation tactics such as crying and blaming her mental health for what she did. I knew she thought she still had power over me that once she had, but not anymore. Being with her was mentally straining and draining. No matter how hard I tried to make her happy, she was never happy. She left me a broken mess, and now she wants to finish me off. I told her that I don't want her back, but we still need to do a DNA test on the boy. Who knows? It could be her trick to get me back into her life and ruin it. The boy just looked so innocent and lost, sad and confused when he looked up at me. I had to look away because I felt horrible. She knew that this would do this to me. How much I wanted a child. I stood up and I could not do this for a second longer. I was bringing back such dark memories in my life. Just sitting there. And then she told me not to dare leave or she would make sure I never got to see my son ever again. I stopped. I could not look at her or anyone. I just felt myself shaking with anger, fear, and just so many other emotions. Then a confronting hand was on my shoulder and I saw that it was Claire. She told me that all was going to be okay. She sat down and asked Enid what she wanted. Enid said she wanted money. Lots of money for child support. Claire said, okay, well, we need a DNA test then to prove that is his son. Enid told her not to get involved because she was just sloppy seconds. Claire told her that at least she truly loved me and did not hurt me once. Too fast for me to even do anything, Enid grabbed Claire and slammed her head on the table. She was about to come over to the other side and finish her off, but I grabbed her. She starts shouting and trying to attack me. I shouted for Claire to call for help. Enid's little stunt earned her some hours in jail for assault. Thank goodness for the security camera. The child was put in foster care in the meantime, but I was able to get a court order so that we could do a DNA test. Well, we're getting the results in a few days, and I do not know how to feel. Claire says that no matter what, she'll still love me and accept the child. I do not know how to feel about this child linking to me and Enid for the rest of my life. I feel that no matter where I go in the world, she'll follow me like a dark rain cloud. I don't love her anymore. I see her for the viper that she is, and I'm scared for my wife and unborn child. She always has so many tricks up her sleeve that she could do whatever she wanted and get away with it. So now I have to plan for the future, just for our safety. Alright guys, Mr. Reddito here. I told you that was absolutely crazy update. It's not over yet, we're about to get the DNA results, so I'll go ahead and read them to you like a day show. He is not the father. Here's your update. He's not my son. I did not know how to feel when I found out. It was a confirmation of what I suspected. He probably was the son of Raphael, who had dumped her as soon as he found out she was pregnant. My heart did not feel okay, knowing that she was going to be responsible for that child for the rest of his life. So then, Claire and I went through our charges of assault and stalking. It was not even that hard for the court to decide that she's not to deserve full custody of this child. She's been involved in a lot of shady stuff over the years, and it's catching up on her. The court did a full evaluation of her and felt that she needed to go get some help. Otherwise, she's a danger to herself and society. I felt so sorry for that poor boy. By the way, his name's Bryce. Although I felt that I should have left him alone and forget about him, I felt that this real dad has to at least acknowledge him. My fiancé and I have just sent messages to his father, asking him to see his son. Let us hope that he responds. Next update, a month later. He did not respond for weeks after we sent the message, though we kept in contact with Bryce, making sure that he was in a safe home. I often wonder if she did not run away, I would have raised him as my own, and I would have never met Claire, or she would have eventually left me and run off with a new lover. I've tried to analyze Enid, but to this day, I don't know what she thinks. 7 years ago, that mysteriousness was what made me so attracted to her. I should have read the warning signs of danger, but in a way, that danger led me right to the path of Claire, my wife. Claire and I have just gotten married, and we're waiting until our baby's born before we go off on our honeymoon. I feel that we had a new lease on life, and the past few weeks have been on a honeymoon of itself. But that honeymoon has been clouded by responses from Raphael. It was not at all what I was expecting. I was expecting anger, silence, or even acceptance. Raphael denies having fathered the child. He says that he had a vasectomy when he was 20 years of age. Unless it's some sort of medical miracle, that child cannot be his. I was at a loss for words, wondering who else would father the child. I went through his social media as far back as a year ago. I saw the post where she was present and tried to see which men she was linked to back then. And then I stopped dead in my tracks. For there was a man who looked a bit like Raphael but younger. His account showed that he was Raphael's younger brother. I was now in a frenzy, so close to finding out something. Anything. I did not know what drives me to find the man who fathered the child. Maybe I don't want him to land back in her custody, and I can't take him in. Claire's been through so much, and I simply cannot ask that of her. So, I went through his profile, and nothing was odd. Until boom! Guess what I saw in one of the pictures? Cufflinks! The same brand that she had in her stuff oh so long ago. The one she lied about being gifted and then gave to me. It was him. I could see it in the eyes that looked similar to those of Bryce. I sent him a message and told him that we have to meet. He was close by and drove over as soon as I told him that it had something to do with Enid. As soon as he arrived, he asked, "What has she done now?" As if she's been causing chaos and havoc all these years. I cannot be surprised. Enid is a storm that wrecks everything in its path. I told him everything that happened from the beginning up until this point. We talked for hours as he told me all that she's done. He and his brother did not speak anymore because of her. I was lost for words at some of the stuff that he told me. And then, the reason why he was here, I still had the cufflinks by some miracle. I'd been wanting to throw them away for years, but once they're out of sight, I forgot about them. I showed him the cufflinks and asked him if they've slept together. He said yes. Then I showed him the picture of Bryce, and he did not protest. He simply nodded gravely as if he's accepting it. I was numb at this point. Tired of feeling anger, tired of feeling betrayal and sadness when it comes to her. He thanked me for telling me, and then he left. As far as I know, he managed to get custody of Bryce, and we've not heard from him ever since. I hope this is the last chapter in the saga of Enid. I cannot take any more of all that she does. Well, Mr. Reddito here. That's all she wrote. Except for this. A mini update just a month later that wraps the entire story up. If you enjoyed the saga of Enid, go ahead and click that subscribe button, and here is your final update. Enid's mom just called. She says that she was released today and she wants to see me. I'm not going there. I'm tired. I've made the mistake of being pulled back into her spider web because I want to save her from herself. I have a wife and a child now to take care of, and Enid is simply my past. Her mom has the nerve. She knew what was happening those years ago and let her daughter ghost me. I called her mom day and night in the first few days until her mother herself blocked me. She didn't tell me where she was, just to put me out of her misery. I don't care that she says now Enid's going insane and realizes what she's done. She needs to realize the consequences of her actions. I've already forgiven her. This is my revenge.